In my last life, I was a corporate mule. Boss worked me 24 hours a day, pocketed my whole salary, and, bonus content, slept with my girlfriend on the side. So one night, I walked into a hardware store, bought a knife, sharpened it real nice, and evened the score. Then I cut my own throat. Guy's exit strategy? 5 stars. Would not recommend. Turns out my stingy boss could be generous after all. Suddenly, he wanted to give me everything. And my screaming, plate-throwing girlfriend? First time in her life she said sorry. Funny how a blade fixes people's manners. Then the world went black, and I respawned somewhere new. Somebody was screaming directly into my face. How could I raise a son who murders? This is beyond heinous. Big, square-jawed man, silk robes, an aura on him like a mountain leaning down to yell at you personally. Guang slammed the table, and the wood just cracked. Beside him, a gorgeous woman in fancy clothes wept prettily on cue. And in front of them stood me, young, tall, handsome, and covered head to toe in fresh wounds like I'd lost a boss fight off screen. My whole body hurt like I'd been beaten to death. Which, it turns out, I had. Ow! What? Where am I? Did I transmigrate? The memories crashed the party. I'd become Lin Wei, same name, different life. This Lin Wei grew up an orphan, raised by a poor blacksmith couple who dreamed of exactly one thing, that their boy would someday live like a human being in a world where being human is a luxury item. So he clawed, 15 years of it, ate dirt, killed men who stood in his way, and gritted his teeth all the way up to one glorious rank, squad leader in the Imperial Secret Police, the bottom rung of the Emperor's dogs. His adoptive parents worked themselves into early graves paying for the climb. Guang never even got to tell them he made it. And then, 18 years too late, his real family found him. Because it turns out Lin Wei wasn't nobody. Guang was the lost eldest son of Zhao Chang, the man currently screaming at me. Sect master of the Jianghu sect, 9th rank monster, top of the heavenly ranking, leader of the entire Northern Martial Alliance. The Jianghu bows and calls him Valiant Zhao, chased a giant sea beast 1,000 miles and killed it with one sword. Benevolent, righteous, a living legend. The kind of stat block you see and immediately re-roll your character. 18 years ago, demons and barbarians hit the capital. Valiant Zhao and his wife rode off to save the world. Their enemies ambushed the home base, burned the sect, and a dying servant carried 4-year-old Lin Wei 100 miles and left him with the blacksmiths. The kid got sick, forgot he ever had another family, and grew up on hard mode. Now they'd found him. Reunion, tears, warm hearth, for about 10 minutes. Then Valiant Zhao looked at the flying fish robe on his son's back, the Emperor's dog uniform, and his face curdled like milk in the sun. And when Lin Wei got home to the sect, he met the rest of the litter, a pampered little sister, a well-fed older sister, a famous younger brother with sword-bright eyes, 3 golden children raised on mountains of treasure and premium tutoring, every one a celebrated young hero with a fan club, and one ruthless orphan squad leader in bloody rags they'd never spent a single copper on. Guess which one just walked in? The kid had run, naturally. Some sect disciple caught him, extorted him, then ratted him out to daddy. Valiant Zhao, defender of the weak, punished his own son, and when Lin Wei killed the disciple who'd blackmailed him, Valiant Zhao beat him to death by family law, then healed him back up just enough to resume the yelling. That's the corpse I woke up in, beaten to death by his own father for the crime of not enjoying being blackmailed. This man literally killed his own son, I thought, and the entire world calls him a hero of benevolence. Great, love that for me. You bastard! How dare you talk back? Is this your filial piety? Zhao Chang was still going. His palm hit the table again, and the aura of a 9th rank expert rolled off him and pressed me down toward the floor like gravity got a promotion. My knees wanted to fold. I locked them. Guang ranted about the Lin family. Centuries of virtue, generations of heroes. Then he pointed at my robe and called it a shame, called me ruthless, called me a disgrace who'd turned the whole clan into a laughingstock. Father of the year, this guy. Nominated himself. I was about to open my mouth and say something that would definitely get me beaten to death a second time when a cold voice cut through my skull. Ding! Host wishes to restore the honor of the Imperial Secret Police. Imperial Secret Police System activated. A system. The transmigrator's golden finger. Right on schedule. 1 second before I charged a 9th rank grandmaster barehanded and ended this whole story on episode 1. Please select your route. Standard route, stray dog. The Imperial Secret Police are the laughing stock of the Jianghu. Perk, get stronger every time you're kicked in the street. Half a day of loading and this is the starter pack? Trash system. Sadly, it wasn't even exaggerating. That is genuinely what the Emperor's Secret Police had degraded into. Stray dogs with a badge. Infiltrator route. Hide inside the enemy, Save the police from the shadows. Title, I'm a good guy. A spy. Now I'm a spy. Is there something wrong with you? Can we do literally anything direct? Special route. Wear the uniform. Silence crying children with it. Sharpen the embroidered spring blade. Execute first, report later. By imperial right. Confiscate. Investigate. Erase. Title, Nightmare of the Jianghu. Perk. Cold-blooded. Physique. Radiate the aura of the Imperial Secret Police. Get rewarded. I looked at door number 3 for exactly 1 second. You think the Jianghu is better than us dogs? I had a bellyful of that in my last life. Special route, obviously. Ding! Cold-blooded physique acquired. Gift pack incoming. There we go. Now we're talking. Apologize to that disciple's corpse, Zhao Chang barked. Copy our ancestors' heroic deeds 100 times and learn what real chivalry looks like. I lifted my eyes, cold as the system that just installed itself. Apologize? To the man who tried to ruin me? I'd rather kill him twice. Guang roared and jabbed a finger at my blade. So if I harmed you, you'd murder your own father and rob his corpse too? Try it. The man nearly ejected out of his chair, but I wasn't done. Guang wanted to talk ancestors? Let's pull up the family history, Dad. You mean Elder Lin Xuan? I said. The one who followed Prince Ming into treason in year 372 and got his head hung on the Capitol gate for 15 days? The room went dead silent. Read-only mode. The great hero, I went on, whose estate they searched after the execution and found 10,000 slaves and 100 pleasure pavilions, who assassinated the one emperor who'd abolished taxes for 10 years so the people could finally breathe. A traitor everyone spat on until 100 years passed and poof, suddenly he's the family's pride. Valiant Zhao, defender of the weak, went the specific purple of a man whose ancestor just got exposed live in his own hall. You beast! Lin Xuan assassinated a tyrant for the people. How dare you slander him? Sure he did. Hubits defies power, defends the honor of the Imperial Secret Police. Reward, healing. Reward, internal energy. Warm current flooded my meridians, my wounds knitted shut, and that one drip of internal energy, worth half of everything the original Lin Wei had scraped together in 18 years of blood. The system pays out for sass. This is the best build I've ever run. I nearly laughed. This trash system was gold-plated. The mother finally spoke. Li Mei, still crying, still lovely. Ah Wei, how can you say that? Apologize to your father this instant. You'll shame him before the whole world. I looked at her. Oh, now you can talk? You were mute with tears a second ago. Shame him outside? No need. I've already been shamed plenty inside this so-called home. Relax. Nobody out there knows I'm your son. They'll just think I'm the Lin family's enemy. Your reputation's safe, great hero and great heroine. You've got 3 brilliant children carrying your name. One more, one less, what's it to me? That landed. Zhao Chang actually paused, because underneath all the shouting, that was the whole thing, wasn't it? His son had just told him, you didn't raise me, you don't own me, and I owe you exactly nothing. You're worthless, he shouted, because a hero always has a comeback. Worthless? I'm alone in the world carving out my own life. What gives you the right to grade it? The mother wept harder and reached for the family's favorite tool. We're family. Blood is thicker than water. Apologize to your father. Turn over a new leaf. Learn chivalry, and we'll all be happy. If one day the whole world wanted me dead, I asked her, quiet, what would you do? I waited. She didn't answer. There it was. She gave me my answer by giving me nothing. I smiled at the ghost of the boy I was wearing. That's when the golden boy walked in. Lin Lei, little brother, ranked among the Jianghu's top 108 geniuses at 18, called the young alliance leader, handsome as a woodblock print. Daddy lit up at the sight of him like I was a bad smell that had finally been cut with cologne. Look at your brother, kind, righteous, worried for you. You, the elder, are a disgrace. Lin Lei dabbed his mother's tears, bowed to his father, and did not so much as glance at me. Oh, and the disciple I'd killed? Had been his man. Small world. Second brother may still resent me, he sighed, running the sad prince quest line. Of course he's your good son, I said. I'm just a ruthless dog. How could I possibly compete? So he's perfect. Remind me why you all came here to wreck my life? Lin Lei couldn't take it. Pampered his whole life, only ever fed flattery, 0 damage resistance. You! How dare you speak to father like… And you, I cut him off. Outsiders might not know I'm your elder brother, but you do. You walked in and didn't greet me. Where's all that famous benevolence and righteousness now? You're just a rude little boy with a good publicist. Nobody had ever talked to Lin Lei like that in his life. His face went from handsome to homicidal in one frame. "Father, mother, second brother's gone demonic. Talking's useless." Guang raised his hand. "Let me discipline him for you." And he slapped me across the face. His parents cried, "Lei Lei, no!" with their mouths. Their feet stayed parked. "Let the wild dog take a beating," their eyes said. "Good for his character." I got my broken blade up in time to catch the palm strike. Barely. Guang been raised on treasures. I'd been raised on garbage tier gear. The blade cracked. The leftover force still put blood in my mouth. Host holds off a powerful enemy against the odds. Reward, internal energy. I straightened up, wiped my lip, and drove the broken blade straight at his throat. Guang wasn't ready for the dog to bite. But before I could open him up, a wall of force ripped my blade to the floor and yanked me backward like a hooked fish. Daddy, of course. "So this is Lin family chivalry," I said. "Guang hits me, you smile. I hit back, you move. Truly the most righteous hero under heaven." Zhao Chang's eyes bulged, because I hadn't called him father. I'd called him sect master. And a son calling his father sect master in front of everyone. That's a public death certificate for the whole father-son relationship. Unforgivable. Unfaceable. Deleted the relationship right in front of the family. "You always call me ruthless," I said, calm, blood on my chin. "If I weren't ruthless, I'd have died at 9, beaten to death by the local bully. Where were you when I had to hide a dagger and gut a grown man who came to hurt me? What right does a flower raised in a greenhouse have to call the weed in the ditch ruthless?" "Stop, stop, child," the mother sobbed. "Your chivalry is garbage in my eyes." I picked my blade off the floor. "You find me an eyesore? Then kill me. Or, since we hate each other anyway, how about I just walk out that door and never have anything to do with the Lin family again?" Silence, then thunder. "Say that again." Zhao Chang was on his feet. "How dare you do something so unfilial, so unjust? You gave birth to me without asking me. That was your choice. You owe me nothing for it, and you raised me not at all. No debt, no gratitude. So where's the string you keep yanking?" I looked at Lin Lei and smiled. "And you? I'll remember that slap. I'm a wicked man. I hold grudges. I always pay them back, with interest." Then I turned and walked out. The mother lurched to follow. Valiant Zhao stopped her with a roar. "Let him go! Ungrateful, heartless, get out! Let's see how a weak, vile dog survives without the Lin family and the Zhejiang sect behind him." I left without looking back, laughing the whole way. Bird out of a cage. Best day of 2 lifetimes. And behind me, the Golden brother's face twisted, already writing my obituary in his head. Our happy home, ruined by that vicious thing. Guang would not let it stand. Noted, little brother. Get in line behind the boss and the girlfriend. Here's the part they only found out after I was gone. Valiant Zhao told the servants to throw out all my belongings. The servants stammered, "There's nothing. The young master doesn't have a room, never did. Sect master, you ordered him housed in the servants' quarters to temper his character, and then everyone just forgot." The hall went quiet. Even the servants in this mansion had rooms. The eldest son of the legendary Valiant Zhao did not. "Then is there truly nothing?" the mother pressed, needing something to grieve over on camera. The servant thought and produced one item, a broken, warped iron hammer, a blacksmith's hammer. The only thing Lin Wei carried out of his old life, his dead adoptive parents' hammer. And that's the moment it finally cracked something open in the woman. Because they'd all been so busy judging the orphan for being hard, nobody once remembered he was a boy who just buried the only parents who ever loved him, arrived at a palace of strangers, wasn't given a bed, and got graded against 3 golden children and found guilty of surviving. I didn't see any of that. I was already walking to my new post, but I heard about it later. And I want you to remember the hammer. Because everything that comes after, the sects I burn, the treasure swords, the emperor's own dogs kneeling at my back, none of it means as much to me as one warped piece of iron from 2 people who never shared my blood and loved me anyway. Keep it on screen. It matters more than the loot. I walked out of that mansion and back to my real family, meaning a wooden squad leader token and a one-way posting to Jiangnan, 5,000 miles south, where the police wanted to bury me doing slave labor. Nobody stopped me. Nobody ever stops the dog they're relieved to watch leave. Except one voice caught me at the door. My little sister, Lin Hua. Sickly, sharp-eyed, the only one of the golden litter who'd looked at me like a person instead of a stain. She'd tried, back in that hall. You never once asked how second brother's 18 years actually went. Nobody listened. She filed it away. Remember her, too. So the family finally learns the truth, and it goes about how you'd expect. Turns out Valiant Zhao doesn't stay home to marinate. Guang rolls out. 20 armored masters, 2 crimson lions pulling a carriage grander than the emperor's. Aura, like a rock slide, and the whole parade halts in front of the Beiyuan City Police Station. The great Valiant Zhao, who'd sooner die than be seen near the emperor's dogs, standing at the dog kennel personally asking for one squad leader named Lin Wei. The station commander nearly wet himself bowing. Then he sent a man to fetch me, and the man came back empty-handed, because I was already gone, 5,000 miles gone. And that's when the mother, Li Mei, restarted the waterworks. "My son's still injured. How could he travel so fast? Does he really not care about us at all?" The commander heard son, and his legs stopped working, because he suddenly remembered why Lin Wei rang a bell. That was the squad leader who'd walked in that very morning, run into his old boss on the way out, cut the man's head clean off, and strolled away. Oh, right. Let me rewind to that, because it's my favorite cutscene of the morning. Chapter 12. His name was Wen Jie, my old boss from the Strongman Corps. 4 years he'd loaded me with the heaviest, filthiest, deadliest jobs, skimmed my pay, stole my credit, beat me for fun. Guang was second rank now, about to make banner officer, so he strutted. And he was standing in the station courtyard, waiting for his thank you fee, the bribe every promoted squad leader owed the boss who'd mentored him. Yes, that's a real fee. The whole system was one big protection racket in a badge. "Lin Wei, you finally show your face. Where have you been hiding?" I felt the corners of my mouth go up. "You delivered yourself to my door, saved me the trip." Guang rubbed his greedy little hands, eyeing my flying fish robe, purred about brotherhood and gratitude, and how a man heading to rich Jiangnan really ought to thank his brothers. "I wonder," I said, "if the squad leader bows this pretty when he meets the 1,000-man commander." Critical hit. Because everyone in Beiyuan knew Wen Jie got fat licking that commander's boots. Guang could do it. Nobody was allowed to say it. His face went ugly. "You little bastard, say that again. Think a squad leader token protects you? There's 100 ways in this world for me to kill you. Kneel and kowtow, or your day gets very bad." Then he slapped me. Full second-rank force. The watching cops flinched. Here it comes. I caught his palm and squeezed. Bones went crunch, crunch, like walnuts in a fist. His scream came out like a pig on hook day. The crowd stopped breathing. Wasn't Wen Jie second rank? How did the orphan just fold him one-handed like laundry? That was the appetizer. "Squad leader Wen Jie, extortion, then assaulting a colleague," I announced to the courtyard, hands behind my back. "By Imperial Secret Police law, punishable by death." Nobody used the word law anymore. They stared at me like I'd started speaking a dead language. Wen Jie, cradling his ruined hand, shrieked that I was finished, that he knew I'd been up on Zhejiang Mountain colluding with the Jianghu, a killing offense for a cop, and now he had me. I drew. One arc of light. His sword came up, and it may as well have been a stalk of straw. The 100-forged embroidered spring blade sheared through steel and kept going, and Wen Jie's head resigned from his neck. "Anyone ever tell you," I said to the fountain of blood, "that you're loud?" Host purges internal corruption, restores the honor of the Imperial Secret Police. Reward, internal energy. I picked up the head, held it up, and gave the courtyard the announcement in full. Squad leader Luo attempted the murder of a colleague for personal gain. By law, executed. Someone report it to the commander, and clean this floor. Then I dropped the head and left. The strong men behind me were shaking, sweating, some flat on the ground. A ruthless man. The police have a ruthless man now, which, honestly, was the nicest thing anyone had said about me in 2 lifetimes. Back to the family standing in that courtyard, learning their long-lost son moonlights as an executioner. Guang killed someone? Valiant Zhao's face ran anger and embarrassment on the same frame. Such a ruthless beast, so unlike his noble self, his golden youngest. Then it got worse for them. A junior officer threw himself down, weeping, and spilled the whole log. How Wen Jie had bullied Lin Wei for 4 straight years, dirty jobs and beatings and skimmed pay. How the boy clawed to squad leader anyway. How Wen Jie tried to extort him and drew first. And how Lin Wei killed him and calmly walked off to his post like it was a Tuesday. Valiant Zhao and Li Mei trembled. 4 years. Their son, ground under the boot of an ant about to make banner officer. They couldn't even render the image. Their other children got carried everywhere on silk. And then the sick little sister, Lin Hua, said the quiet part out loud, swaying on her feet. "None of you ever asked how second brother was. You only blamed him for being hard. Father, you keep preaching him benevolence and righteousness and chivalry. Those are luxuries. For him, they'd have been fatal. In the world he grew up in, if he wasn't ruthless to others, others were ruthless to him. Even a squad leader could grind him into nothing." Zhao Chang trembled harder and clamped it down. Because the Northern Alliance couldn't see Valiant Zhao crack. Reputation over son, right to the last frame. I thought he was truly wicked, he muttered, mostly to himself. So I tested whether he'd obey me. As a father, what I did wasn't excessive. You used a disciple to bait your own son, Lin Hua said, thinking it a small thing. For him, every loss of control could mean death. And you blame him for that? The mother broke, screamed that she couldn't live with a man who'd driven their son away, and rocketed off on her lightness skill to go find me. And the two sisters, Lin Hua and the elder, Lin Xiao, peeled off after her, half to find me, half just to escape the building. Behind them, Valiant Zhao stood alone in a suddenly empty plaza, the great leader of the Northern Alliance, staring at the crater where his family used to be, wondering how being so righteous had left him so completely alone. And the golden brother Lin Lei stared at the wreckage of his perfect family and decided, once and for all, that it was my fault. That vicious thing shattered our beautiful home. I will not let him get away with it. Good. Hold that thought, little brother. We'll settle up later. 5,000 miles south, Jiangnan, land of silk and rice and plenty. I walked up to the city gate in a black flying fish robe and a bamboo hat, blade cold at my hip, and the first thing I noticed was that land of plenty was stuffed with thin, gray, half-starved people. I stopped a white-bearded old man to ask directions, and he took one look at the sword on my hip, dropped to his knees, and begged, swore he had nothing left, couldn't pay, please. Interesting. In a rich province, ordinary people kowtow to a blade on reflex. What exactly did somebody do to install that muscle memory? I flashed my token. I'm the police, not a gangster. Get up, I just have questions. And the fear drained out of him. Guang squinted at my robe, dusted off his knees, and muttered, Thought you were Red River Gang. All that kowtowing for nothing. A cop's just a cop. Huh. So the Emperor's secret police scared people less than the local street gang. Down here, the dogs were even more toothless than up north. Difficulty setting, embarrassing. I asked a few questions. Who runs this county? What's the Red River Gang? Why does everyone treat the police like a punchline? Guang answered, careful, and I sent him off. Then I went to my new home base, the Jianghu County Police Station. Rich city, rich province, spitting distance from the capital. It was a ruin. Doors nailed shut, cobwebs in every corner, the training ground abandoned to weeds. A handful of officers shuffled around with their heads down, auras limp, dressed worse than second-rate street thugs. Even the ones with real internal energy stood like whipped dogs. No wonder nobody flinched at my badge. This whole station had forgotten how to be feared. The dog kennel had been reduced to a petting zoo. I found the man in charge, Ye Chu, banner officer, second rank, dressed just sharp enough to look important. Guang gave me the welcome young talent routine with all the warmth of a tax audit, then floated a fancy welcome dinner, translation, hand over your bribe and we'll get along. Thank you, but I'd rather learn how the station runs. Let's skip the dinner. His face iced over on the spot. A slap, I'd refused the gift and knocked the face right off his hand. Squad leader Lin, you don't understand, he said, standing. Jiangnan isn't the north. In a little county like Jianghu, forces tangle together. Pull one thread, a whole tree comes down. Bury your head in the work, and you'll get nowhere. The threat wasn't even wearing a disguise anymore. No need. Even tangles come apart. I prefer to do things first. His hand hit the table. The teacup did a little jump. I took you for a smart man. Turns out you're a stubborn one. I've seen your type, think they're special. I'll end up in a ditch. Since you love work so much, take some men and run night patrols the next few nights. And fix that robe. The flying fish is the face of the police. You've made it gaudy. You're an embarrassment. Then he walked off, hands behind his back, extremely pleased with himself. Same trick. Same tired boss running the same tired script. Pile on the worst jobs, nitpick everything but the actual work. Last life, that script used to make me afraid. This life, I'd already killed the last man who tried it and kept his head as a receipt. Yet Cho just didn't know it yet. And neither did the Red River Gang. Copa, the Red River Gang ran Jianghu County, ran the river, ran the water trade to a dozen counties, ran the casinos and the mines. Their leader, Guang Yong, was a third-rank monster with a dozen masters under him. Officially, the police kept the peace. Actually, the police kowtowed and collected scraps. Ye Cho's idea of a career was carrying gifts to the gang and drinking their wine. My idea was a different genre entirely. Night 1. Instead of running Ye Chu's little punishment patrol, I took 10 strongmen and burned down the gang's biggest casino in the west of the county, killed the toughs, sealed the doors, and marched north to their coal mine. The mine was a hell instance. Hundreds of laborers in rags, whipped bloody, worked till they dropped. Men roped together in a corner, sobbing, the ones who tried to run and got dragged back. One of them, head down, choked out his story. Borrowed 3 taels of silver, watched the interest balloon it to 300, got sold into the pit to work it off. If he died down there, who'd feed his wife and kids? Predatory lending simulator, hard mode. A gang thug was gloating over the roped men. Who's coming to save you? The heroes from the storybooks? The Emperor's court? Ha! Jianghu belongs to the Red River. A crossbow bolt went through his throat mid-sentence. Comment section closed. The laborers looked up and saw a row of flying fish robes. The Imperial Secret Police are raiding an illegal mine, I called out. Drop your weapons. Anyone who resists dies. The guards laughed. A handful of dogs, threatening the Red River gang? And my men filled them with arrows. Sloppily, honestly. Half of them couldn't hit a throat at 10 paces. But obedient. And 10 crossbows paper over a lot of bad aim. We cleared the mine. I found the pit boss, put my blade to his neck, and asked one question about the coal. It's just coal, worthless, flash. Guang got to watch his own headless body for one confused second. Don't feel like talking? Next. I pulled the ledgers, sat down in a chair, closed my eyes, and told my men to reload every crossbow. Because this was the appetizer, not the main course. Host shuts down an illegal mine, fulfilling the duty of the Imperial Secret Police. Reward? Internal energy. My men counted the take, 100,000 caddies of coal, 400 taels of silver. I kept 300 tael notes. The rest is yours. They lit up like it was New Year. 100+ taels split among 10 men. That's more than they'd make in 50 years of honest wages. Squad leader Lin is a strange one, they thought. But nobody's ever been this generous. That's the trick, by the way. The old police terrorized their own men and fed on the people. I feed my men and terrorize the guilty. You'd be amazed how fast 10 mediocre strongmen turn loyal when the pay is good and the boss walks in front. Best guild management strat in the game, and nobody else runs it. Sure enough, hooves outside. The gang's answer had arrived. K, deputy leader Guo Tao. Second rank, iron whip, mustache like a rat, and the personality to match. Guang De brought 30 of the gang's best and a fresh batch of recaptured laborers on ropes. Which blind imperial dog dares set foot on Red River turf? Guang cracked an earthen wall to dust with one whip. Kneel and kowtow, and I might leave you a corpse. I stayed in my chair, wiping my blade with a silk cloth. Didn't look up. AFK, essentially. To prove who ran Jianghu, Guo Tao whipped a laborer's chest to red pulp, then had his men behead a row of the roped prisoners right there in front of the police. Come on, arrest me if you've got the guts. I set down the cloth. You done? Good. My turn. I stood and pointed the blade at him. Empty the quivers, leave no one alive. 10 crossbows went off at once. 5 gangsters dropped before they finished their war cry. Guo Tao whipped a bolt out of the air and roared his men into a charge. Reload takes time. Close the distance. My men picked up the second set of preloaded crossbows and fired again. 9 more corpses. Turns out, reload takes time doesn't apply when you just bring twice the guns. Guo Tao lunged for me himself. Stone-smashing whip! I met him with the 100 Battles Reincarnation Blade. Heaven-grade technique, a single stroke of it against a second ranker who'd never seen its like. Guang got exactly far enough to think, how is he so fast, before his head and one hand hit the dirt. His 30 best wiped out. Not one of my men scratched. Flawless. Host slays the leader of an illegal organization. Reward, 10 internal strengthening pills. A little bottle dropped into my hand. Pills to open the meridians of ordinary men. Perfect for upgrading my 10 sloppy strongmen from bronze to something sharper. Then my men brought the spoils, thrilled. 800 taels off Guo Tao's own body. Ready the horses, sir? Back to the station? In a hurry? I shook my head. We're the Imperial Secret Police. We've only done the killing. The most important step's still ahead. They blinked. I smiled. Seems the police had forgotten even the traditional crafts. You think a second-rank deputy leader keeps only 800 taels at home? Take his head. Confiscate his house. Loot the boss, then loot the boss's base. Rookie mistake to skip it. Meanwhile, back at gang headquarters, Ye Qiu was having the worst afternoon of his life. Guangdu gone there to grovel and drink and, quietly, to sell me out, hand the gang my name, and let Guangyong solve his little Lin Wei problem for him. Guangyong kept him drinking, half hospitality and half hostage, all of them waiting for Guo Tao to come back with my head. The news came in instead. Casino smashed, mine seized, Guo Tao dead, his house ransacked. Full patch notes. Ye Qiu's wineglass hit the floor. Guangyong grabbed him by the collar and lifted him off his feet, third-rank strength crushing down. You Imperial Secret Police did this? If you wanted to break with the Red River Gang, you should have just said so. Yet Zhao babbled that he knew nothing, swore it on his life. And here's the beautiful part he could barely make himself say out loud. A man vicious enough to kill Guo Tao in half a day is a man you really don't want learning that you were the one who came to the gang to sell his name. If Lin Wei ever found out, Guang kept that terror behind his teeth. Guang be needing it. Because I hadn't slipped through anybody's fingers, I was just getting warmed up, and I'd left Guang Yong a personal message. Killed his protector brother Guang Guang that same day and told a gang runner to pass it along, word for word. Miss your brother? Slit your own throat and go reunite. The runner delivered it. Guang Yong crushed the man's skull into the floor purely for carrying it. Shoot the messenger, literally. Then he turned on Ye Cho and squeezed my name out of him, and my dear banner officer spotted his golden exit. Guang fell over himself selling me. Lin Wei's a madman, one day in the county and he's wrecked everything. Take him, do whatever you want with him. The Imperial Secret Police won't so much as blink, I guarantee it. A cop, gift wrapping a cop for a gangster, bow on top. Guang Yong took the deal. Killing a decorated squad leader in the open street makes noise. A quiet trap with the police covering for you, clean. Guang to take his time with me, teach me what it means to wish for death and be refused. They really do write their own endings, these people. I just proofread. Clome, I rode back to the station with a parade of confiscated goods, and something happened I hadn't scripted. Old women were gathered at the gate, village clothes, eyes wet, setting down eggs and rice and noodles and kowtowing at the Imperial Secret Police Station. Thank you for saving my son. You saved my man. You are our family's benefactors. The wives and mothers of the men the Red River Gang had swallowed into that mine, women who'd already buried their husbands in their hearts, and then the door opened and the men walked back in. My strong men stood there with their legs going soft. Nobody had ever called them heroes before. Nobody had ever called them anything you'd say in daylight. Host restores the righteous path. Reward, 10 cold iron crossbows. Take the food, split it, go feed your families, I told my men. You earned it. I don't hoard credit. Loyalty is cheaper than silver and worth 10 times more. And then, right on cue, the evening's entertainment arrived. Ye Cho came shoving through the crowd, drunk and screaming, crying and wailing at the police gate. Anyone who doesn't want to sell, scatter! And the old women fled, and he stood there, kicking their eggs and rice across the dirt, kicking gifts from widows. Then he looked up, saw me watching, and executed the fastest mood swing in the Great Qian. Rage to bootlicking in one breath. Squad Leader Lin, a young hero, made your name in a single day. Guang even caught himself mid-grovel, baffled and burning. Why am I explaining myself to my own subordinate? And soothed his little heart with the reminder that I'd be a corpse by midnight anyway. Because he had an invitation for me. A victory banquet, he said, at Weijia Restaurant, the finest in the county. Guang to tell me all about how Qinghe really works. A trap so obvious it came with a printed menu. I smiled and said I'd be delighted. Then I went back to my men, tossed them the bottle of internal strengthening pills, and handed out 10 crossbows of a make the station had never issued. Take the medicine, gear up, wait near Weijia Restaurant for my signal. Their eyes went round, first the pills, then the steel. If we'd known working hard paid like this, we'd have been risking our lives years ago. That's the whole secret of command, friends. It really isn't complicated. Weijia Restaurant, that night. The county's loudest building, dead silent, bought out floor to ceiling by the gang. Ye Cho led me up to the 3rd floor personally, eager as a matchmaker, hatred leaking out the corners of his smile. Guang showed me into the grand private room, and the second I crossed the threshold, the door slammed behind me and his little feet went pattering down the stairs. Locked in. With Guang Yong and a table of the Red River Gang's best killers. Ambush cutscene, unskippable. I didn't even turn around. What a coward. Wants me dead and won't stay to watch. A disgrace to the uniform. Guang Yong rose, 3rd-rank pressure rolling off him, face still raw from a day of losing everything. Finally, you little beast. Before I'm done, you'll be begging. I'll slice you off, piece by piece. Your brother's dead, I said, just to skip his monologue. It worked. Guang came at me with a cleaver the size of a door, his signature move, behind it, a crashing wave of force, the full power of the strongest man in Qinghe County. His own men flinched back from the wind of it. The squad leader dies here, every face in the room agreed. I drew and met it head-on. 3 cuts, faster than the eye. Clang, clang, clang. Sparks. And when the ringing stopped, Guang Yong had staggered back a step with 3 fresh notches in his cleaver, and I hadn't moved, and my blade didn't even need sharpening. The room stopped breathing. Their gang leader, the 3rd-rank monster, the roof over every crime in the county, had thrown his best strike and chipped himself on me. Guang coughed blood from the backlash. And then the rage drained out of his face, and the fear moved into the vacancy, and the king of Qinghe County crawled backward across his own banquet floor. "Don't kill me, my lord, I was wrong. Spare me, you can't kill me. The people behind me will never—" Thud. "The people behind you?" I said to the head. "The more the merrier." Then I called in my 10. Crossbows through the doors, pill-strengthened arms behind them, and the finest killers of the Red River Gang went down in 1 red minute. The Weijia restaurant got a new floor color. Host slays the leader of an illegal faction. Reward, internal energy. And with that surge, a barrier inside me broke. 3rd rank. 10 days. 10 days from waking up in a beaten corpse to standing over the body of a county's tyrant, 3 realms up the ladder. There were prodigies in the Jianghu who'd sell their whole sect for that leveling curve. Chivalry, I thought, wiping my blade. Can chivalry do this? 1 loose end left, and I don't let a grudge sleep overnight. Ye Qiu had scurried back to the station to rehearse his grief. Guang was literally scheduling the night patrol that would stumble upon my body when he heard the commotion outside, cheering, of all things, victorious cheering, and looked up into the one face in the great Qian he most needed dead. I walked toward him with the blade already bare. Guang tried rank first. Carrying a drawn blade in the station, planning a rebellion? Put it down. That's an order. His voice cracked on the exclamation points. I kept walking and asked why he'd skipped his own dinner party. Guang tried dismissal next. It's late, go home. I kept walking. Guang asked, sweating through his robe, what exactly I wanted. To kill a traitor, I said. An inside man who sold his own people. Guang went down like his strings got cut, then scrambled and babbled. It was Guang Yong. Guang Yong tricked him. Who could have known? Nothing to do with me. And when begging failed, he did the one brave thing of his entire life and threw a sneak double palm strike at my ribs. It was like punching an anvil. Both his hands broke. Hard, Qigong? He whispered, cradling his ruined wrists. Who are you? The man who killed you. The blade went in, and on the floor, with the light going out of him, Ye Qiu stared up in genuine, offended disbelief, because I'd said the words the Imperial Secret Police's reputation, and to him, that phrase was a punchline. What era is this? The police have no dignity left, and the thought that all his misery came from a colleague who actually meant the job. He died, refusing to accept it. Rage quit reality. Host purges the traitor within. Reward, 20 internal strengthening pills, 5 mysterious cold crossbows. Even the system got it. The rot inside the uniform dies first, then the rot outside. The next morning, I finished the Red River Gang as an institution. Their great dock headquarters on the Qinghe River woke up strange and quiet. The leader gone, every senior master gone, nobody sure why. The rank and file soothed each other with the old catechism. Nothing can touch the Red River Gang. The leader's probably out skinning that blind cop right now. They were still reassuring each other when 20 flying fish robes lined up on the pier and a voice rolled over the water. The Imperial Secret Police are sealing the Red River Gang. Bystanders clear out, obstruct us, and die. No leader, no deputies, no masters. Just a building full of bullies who'd spent years being brave against unarmed peasants, now meeting men with crossbows and a legal right to kill them. It wasn't a battle. It was an inventory count. We took the dock, the ledgers, the warehouses, the whole rotten franchise, and the county woke up to a world where the Red River Gang simply no longer existed. Uninstalled overnight. Then I raided Guo Tao's estate down to the floorboards and swept the loose ends, a family called the Qing Feng sect that had been hiding Guang Yong's in-laws. Turned out their sheltered aunt was the gang leader's own wife's brother, and the whole sect had known exactly whose blood money paid for their hospitality. My men herded their disciples out like penned pigs, and I shipped the lot off to work the very coal mine they'd helped fill. Poetic. Recycling program. One of them slipped the net. A young woman named Xie Long, who hid in a dry well through the whole raid, crawled out afterward burning with righteous fury, and swore to report me to the Martial Forest Alliance and avenge her blood feud. She'd been raised on hero stories. When my men fished her out, she screamed that I was a demon, an evil spirit, a disgrace to all martial artists. You've mastered the arts and know nothing of chivalry. So I asked her one question. Have you ever killed anyone? Of course. Street robbers, corrupt officials like you. Proud of it. Chin up. The whole righteous starter pack. Then we're the same, I said, and laughed and walked away. She howled after me that she only killed those who deserved it. Yes, so does everyone, miss. That's the whole bug in this world. Every blade in it is certain it's the good one. And then one of my men, going through her effects, held up a jade hairpin, deep ethereal green, gemstone inlaid. worth more than a farmer earns in a lifetime, and another officer went quiet, because he'd seen its twin in the Red River Gang's vaults, a matched pair. The other had belonged to a traveling merchant's wife, the merchant Guang Yong murdered on the road for his cargo, whose widow drove her half of the pair into her own throat rather than be taken. 2 hairpins, separated by one atrocity, reunited in an evidence sack. That's the prosperous Jiangnan these chivalrous people built, and the sheltered girl wearing the second pin had never once asked her family where the pretty things came from. Host eradicates a force harboring criminals. Reward, internal energy. And with that one, something clicked over in my chest. I broke into the late stage of the 3rd rank. In a handful of days, wearing a badge everyone laughed at, I'd gone from beaten corpse to a monster the whole county was learning to fear. Speedrun in progress. Back at the station, I surveyed my crew. 30 strong men now, meridians opened by Guo Tao's pills, kitted with fine cold iron crossbows, each one able to handle a real martial artist. A few days ago, they were shuffling ghosts. Now they stood like soldiers, looking at me like I'd personally hung the moon. There was just one problem, and Bai Wei, my nervous second, named it. I'd detained an inspector from the prefecture office. Every cop in Jianghu County was now permanently marked dirty in the eyes of the higher-ups. No going back to quiet. Which suited me fine. Quiet was never on the menu. The Red River Gang had a big, powerful backer, I told my men. I've reported it up the chain to the capital, but some things won't wait. I looked them over and gave the order flat and unquestionable. Half the great families of Xinjiang Prefecture were in bed with the Red River Gang. Every one of them is a suspect. Full station, full quivers. We ride to the prefecture and we do our duty. Because I'd learned the single most useful phrase in the entire Great Qian legal code, and I intended to use it on everyone who'd ever looked down on a starving man. Execute first, report later. By imperial right. Best line of dialogue in the game. Unlimited uses. We rode into Xinjiang Prefecture that evening. 30 horses, 30 flying fish robes, quivers full. The city was bigger, richer, prouder. And the second we entered, the prefecture handed me my first target for free. A young dandy in silk, fanning himself, planted himself in the middle of the road and refused to move for 30 charging horses. My lead officer cracked a whip to drive him off. The dandy didn't flinch, but a middle-aged master lunged out of the crowd and knocked my officer and his horse flat. "Are you blind? Didn't you see my young master walking?" The master flexed his internal energy, saw our robes, and sneered. "Just a pack of imperial dogs. Whoever's in charge, get down and kowtow to my young master, or the Guo family won't let you off." The Guo family. Local titans. The whisper in the crowd told me everything. Even the prefecture's own police commander bent the knee to the Guo family. This dandy, Guo Hao, liked to ride the city and flatten whoever got in his way, and it always ended the same way, with other people apologizing. Lucky me. The Guo family was one of the clans that had propped up the Red River Gang, and their heir just walked right into my road. Quest marker, delivered to my doorstep. "Somebody who can't hear 30 horses coming and body blocks them anyway," I said, "deserves whatever he gets." "What did you say?" "Nobody in the prefecture talked to a Guo like that." "Cripple him!" His master lunged. I looked at my men. "Assaulting the Imperial Secret Police in broad daylight. Kill them." Guo Hao actually laughed. "A few low-ranked dogs. Kill him?" Right up until a wall of crossbow bolts came at his face. His hidden armor saved his life. His master wasn't so lucky. Second volley, and the man dropped into a spreading pool of red. I got off my horse and walked over, unhurried. Guo Hao backed up, snapped his fan into a blade, screamed that the Guo family would never let me live. "Me neither," I said, and took his head off before he finished the threat. Host eliminates the disrespectful, upholds the dignity of the Imperial Secret Police. Reward, internal energy. I kicked the head toward my men. "The Guo family dropped their trash in the street. We're civilized people. Let's return it to sender." The Guo mansion swallowed half a street. No beggars anywhere near it, because, my men learned, the great philanthropist, Master Guo, broke the legs of any poor person who came within 5 miles of his gate. Naturally, the whole prefecture praised his generosity. 5-star reviews, 1-star reality. I sent a man to knock. The gatekeeper threatened to break our legs. 3 blades on his neck edited his tone. Out waddled the Guo family butler, second rank, full of himself, demanding to know which nobody dared investigate the Guo family. I'll be honest, I baited him. I asked, all innocence, whether the mighty Guo family feared the emperor, and the fat fool took the hook with both hands. "The imperial court's been rotten for a century. Don't mention the emperor. Even the heavenly king himself couldn't touch us." I turned to my men, delighted. "Did you all hear that?" "We heard it, sir." "Good." The smile fell off my face. The Guo family has openly insulted the emperor and confessed to plotting rebellion. The entire clan are traitors. Confiscate their property, kill anyone who resists. That's the whole beautiful engine, right there. They spent 100 years so drunk on their own power, they mocked the throne to a cop's face for sport. And the throne, for all its weakness, still owned one thing that never expired: the right to erase a traitor and repossess his house. All I had to do was hand them the rope and let them hang themselves with a single sentence. They always volunteer. The butler swelled up to order my death. A crossbow storm cut the order short. Guang plucked one poisoned dart out of his forehead, scoffed a mere trifle, then coughed up black blood and folded. Tang clan poison. Never leave home without it. We broke down the gate. The Guo clan chief himself came out, third rank, roaring. I didn't waste breath explaining who I was. Doesn't matter who I am. What matters is your people openly insulted the emperor, and I've already cleaned up your mess for you. His whole defense collapsed to one squirming line. That butler acted alone. He's already dead. Nothing to do with the Guo family. Sure. That's the line they always read when the blades finally pointed the right direction. Kuh. Now, you're probably wondering how one squad leader keeps pulling this off. 30 men against clans of trained masters, prefecture after prefecture. 2 reasons. Reason 1, the golden finger stopped being a joke. Every act of defiance, every purge, every corpse fed the system. And the system fed me, internal energy, techniques, a light foot art, a saber technique out of a heaven-grade inheritance called the True Martial Dao Classic, and a weapon, the demon-slaying sword, a divine blade that put me closer to the summit of the sword Dao than anyone alive. I wasn't a squad leader who got lucky. I was a raid boss wearing a squad leader's token, and every enemy who underestimated the robe was underestimating the last mistake of their life. Reason 2, and this one I didn't even know about yet. Somewhere in the prefecture, a masked, ordinary man who'd handed me a military tiger tally had gone home and reported to an old man over wine. And the old man, Li Chuan, laughed and shook his head. You idiot. Why disguise yourself? Guang saw through you in a heartbeat. Gripped his knife, stared straight at your right palm, read your entire style off one hand. The masked master went cold because his right palm was his entire style, and a third-rank cop should never have been able to read it. Don't underestimate the heroes of this world, Li Chuan said. My grandson climbed out of dirt. That's beyond what soft men can even imagine. Guang looked toward my station, eyes gone deep. The Jianghu and the court both worship the rules the powerful invented, and half of them believe their own lies. They forgot the only real power is the power in your own hand. My grandson never forgot. Guang's a wild dragon, and his heart is the whole Jianghu. Then he said the sentence that changed the size of my story. Those hypocrites blocking his road won't let him go. As his grandfather, I'll give him everything I have to give. Everything. From a 9th-rank expert on the heavenly ranking, a former grandmaster, now one of the most powerful grand secretaries in the entire Great Chen court, my mother's father, watching over the grandson the fake heroes threw away, and quietly deciding to pour an empire's worth of resources behind him. The one relative who spent 0 time judging and all his time loading the board. I'd walked out of one family that gave me a servant's cot and a hammer, and a bigger one I'd never met, was quietly stacking the deck in my favor. Chapter, The Sects Didn't Take the Hint. One of the 3 great powers of the prefecture, Leaf Blade Mountain, the Ye Dao sect, decided to solve me the traditional way. And the man who sold them my route was one of my own. Wen Bing, the prefecture's police company commander, a drunk in a nice robe who'd spent years getting rich as the Jianghu's doorman. Guang tipped the sect where I'd be riding, then sat back with a jug of wine to wait for the good news, already fantasizing about confiscating my confiscations. The mantis stalks the cicada, he chuckled to himself, unaware of the oriole behind. Remember that line. It's going to come back for him. The assassin they sent was Gao Ming, the Ye Dao sect's #1 disciple, 4th rank ranked on the human list, the only celebrated genius in the whole prefecture, his master's life's work. And note the math, a 4th rank ranked prodigy, ambushing a 3rd rank cop on the open road, and the whole Jianghu ready to applaud it as a righteous act. Because that's the game these heroes run, strong against the weak, weak against the strong, and always a beautiful word for it. Sacrificing his precious reputation to rid the world of a vicious criminal. They were catering the victory feast before he even left the mountain. Guang blocked my road and sneered down at me. I looked up at him from my horse and said the thing you're not allowed to say to a ranked genius. I'm the Emperor's personal guard. You're a civilian with a sword. What makes you think you deserve to challenge me? Guang came apart on the spot and drew. I opened with poisoned darts, because I'm not a hero, I'm a policeman, and while he was batting them away, screeching about vicious, shameless imperial dogs, I dismounted and met him blade to blade. And here's where his day started going wrong. My 100 Battles Reincarnation Blade, a heaven-grade art, held his mid-3 ranks genius to a dead standstill. Guang hacked. I turned it. Guang lunged. I was already there. His sneer curdled into confusion. Since when can a third ranker match me? And then he stopped playing and poured internal energy into his blade, the trick that separates the middle ranks from the lower, sword and body fused into one weapon. My hand went numb catching it. Now he was winning, and he crowed about it. So I adjusted and ground him back down with pure technique. And that's when the golden boy of Xinjiang Prefecture showed everyone exactly what his righteousness weighed. Guang backed off, pulled a jade talisman from his robe, and crushed it. A heavenly secret talisman from the Tianji Pavilion, obscenely expensive and nasty. It slammed him up to the 5th rank on the spot, in exchange for collapsing him into weakness afterward and burning months of his cultivation. A ranked prodigy, torching his own foundation, to murder one third-rank cop on a public road. Pay to win, and he maxed the microtransaction. "Killing you makes me the hero of the prefecture," he howled, eyes red, blade a green blur. "Famous across all Jiangnan, worth every bit of it." And for a minute, he was right. The talisman made him too fast. My blade caught his strikes, and my arms lost ground, and the watching crowd started drafting his legend in their heads. I took half a step back, sheathed the embroidered spring blade, and drew a different sword, a black one, broken, plain as a grave marker. "You'll kill me within an incense stick?" I said. "I need one breath." The sword sang, one note, clear and sharp, and everyone on that road shut their eyes without meaning to. The sword intent alone forced them closed. When they opened them, Gao Ming's head was on the ground, with the ferocity still frozen on its face. Guang never saw the stroke. Guang never even understood there had been a stroke. Xinjiang Prefecture martial artist Gao Ming openly ambushed the Imperial Secret Police, I announced to the road. The penalty is death. Carried out. Host slays a top-tier villain. Reward, a trove of swordsmanship insights. The crowd came apart, screaming, "Young valiant Gao is dead, the chivalrous slain by the ruthless," and bolted. And I put my blade into the ground and said one sentence. "Let's see who dares take a single step." And an entire road of grown martial artists dropped to their knees in the dust like a field of harvested wheat. I asked the nearest one who the dead man was. "Young Master Zheng, Gao Ming." Guang caught himself mid-honorific. Smart fellow. "Which sect?" "Leafblade Mountain, my lord, their first disciple." I saw the exact frame he realized why I was asking. Every kneeling face on that road went gray at once, running the same arithmetic. The man's dead, his master and elders are still alive, and this demon in a flying fish robe just asked for an address. The Yi Dao sect is finished. "Leafblade Mountain," I repeated, picking up the head. Bold of them. And in that scattering crowd, one man in rough hemp with a wrapped sword on his back stood stock still, staring after me with his eyes on fire, the only person on the road who hadn't shut his eyes when the black sword sang, because he'd rather have gone blind than miss it. You already know his name. Tang Wu. That was the day he saw the future of the sword. It just took him a few days to kneel in my road about it. Ketera. First, though, a delivery for the Oriole. I rode into the prefecture capital with Gao Ming's head bouncing at my saddle, through streets that went silent block by block, straight into police headquarters, past officers who took one look and found urgent business on the floor. In the main hall, Company Commander Wen Bing was drinking to my death. I tossed the head onto his table. It landed in his dinner. Guang screamed, saw the face, and decided he was hallucinating. Gao Ming? The ranked genius? Impossible, I'm drunk. Until my voice behind him confirmed the vintage. Guang spun, recognized me from the portraits he'd been cursing at all week, shrieked, and went over backward. My blade came to rest on his neck before he finished falling. Drunk in broad daylight, Commander Wen. Need help sobering up? You could watch his whole soul do the math. Gao Ming died, and this man doesn't have a scratch, which means he could kill me between breaths. Guang pointed one shaking finger at the head and asked what happened, and I gave him the version we both understood perfectly. Bandits on the road said they'd kill me. Strange thing is, somebody must have told them my route. I wonder who. The mantis, the cicada, and the oriole, Commander. Which one are you again? Guang nearly swallowed his own tongue. Then he did the only dance he knew. How dare they ambush the Imperial Secret Police? They deserve death. Well done, Banner Chief Lin. So you agree the killing was good? I said pleasantly. I don't think it's enough. Leaf Blade Mountain raised its hand against the throne's own guards. That's rebellion. Lend me your men, Commander. Let's uproot the traitors together. And the drunk found his spine, because he'd run his own numbers. Help me raid one of the 3 great sects, and the Jianghu would feed him to the dogs whether we won or lost. Guang ground his teeth and produced the classic, Leaf Blade Mountain is deeply intertwined with the other powers. I'm afraid we're not up to the task. Let's set this aside for now. Ah, of course. Commander Wen is right, I smiled, and left him alive, panting like he'd sprinted a mile, telling himself the mountain would kill me for him. Guang likes raiding homes and wiping out clans. Those people will never let him live. Everyone in this story keeps mistaking my execution schedule for their personal salvation. It's honestly touching. Outside the city, my 30 were already mustered. I gave them the plan straight. Tonight, we erase the Yi Dao sect. They outnumber us, so we don't trade blows. We decapitate. Kill the sect leader fast and ugly, and the rest folds on its own. They'd flinched at the name, one of the 3 great sects, a 4th-rank leader, and then squared up anyway. Because by now, they had a religion, and it had exactly one commandment. The banner officer doesn't spend his brothers cheap. And as we were mounting up, an ordinary-looking man walked out of nowhere, calm as laundry day, and my hand found my hilt on its own. Because under the ordinary face was a human skin mask, and under his robe, the internal energy of a top 3 ranks master, coiled and hidden in his right palm. Guang bowed, said he served a certain gentleman, and put a bronze tiger tally in my hands, authority to mobilize the garrison troops of the entire prefecture. The Imperial Secret Police lost that power generations ago. Whoever sent this could pluck strings at the very top of the great Qian court. Who's your master? You'll meet him in time. Guang says a hero should make the most of it. Then thank him, I'll repay it. I pocketed the tally, swung up, and gave the messenger one parting gift over my shoulder. Hope I recognize you next time we meet. His smile died where he stood. Because I'd read the mask, the hidden core, the palm, all of it at a glance, and he'd been sure he was invisible. Nobody's invisible to a man who reads people for a living. You already know who sent him, the old man in the capital with my mother's family name, quietly emptying an empire behind his thrown-away grandson. The board was loading itself in my favor. Then I rode up their mountain. I didn't announce anything. My men just started killing resisting disciples while I stood at the gate with my arms crossed. The Leaf Blade disciples, every one a little tyrant in his home county, who treated a peasant's life like weeds, screamed for help, for the elders, ran in circles, and discovered in real time exactly how it feels to be the weeds. Their master, Jiang Ye, came roaring down. "Stop! You dare threaten Leaf Blade Mountain? Where is my disciple?" "Your disciple?" I said. "Guess. Guess right. I'll spare 10 of your dogs." I nodded to my men. A round object thumped to Jiang Ye's feet, wrapped in burlap. Guang opened it with shaking hands. Gao Ming's head stared up at him, still wearing its last shocked expression. "Pinger!" Guang came apart, screamed for my blood. His whole life's work, his masterpiece, dead in a sack, and the disciples behind him, staring at their unbeatable senior brother's severed head, felt the fear outrun the fury. If Gao Ming was a corpse, what did that make them? Some bolted. Jiang Ye bellowed to hold the line. No cowards at Leaf Blade Mountain. I clapped, slow. Master Bai's a real hero, but if you ask me, your disciples are scared. Let them go. Why make them throw their lives away for you? That's the other blade, the one with no visible edge. Jiang Ye knew it. "Stop trying to break my sect!" he screamed, but the crack was already spidering through the wall, because every disciple there had just heard someone offer them the one thing their master wouldn't, an exit. Guang tried to rally them with the truth, which was the single worst move available. "We're his mortal enemies now. You know Lin Wei's reputation. Wipe out the family, confiscate everything, kill without mercy. Guang will never let you go." They pictured it, a living king of hell in a black robe. And their legs voted before their loyalty could file an appeal. Jiang Ye ran the math out loud. Hundreds of disciples against a few dozen dogs. Surely numbers win. Surely some Jianghu power will rise to protect us if we just fight. Guang was still doing the math when I stopped listening, because Leaf Blade Mountain was already over. It just hadn't finished falling yet. But Guang, oh, and somewhere in all that, a swordsman knelt in my road and refused to leave. Tang Wu. When I'd cut down Gao Ming and my sword light swept the whole arena into terrified worship, this one man alone didn't close his eyes and cower. No internal energy at all, and yet he set off my danger sense like a struck bell. Because he wasn't a martial artist. Guang was a sword bearer. One of the mad idealists who don't cultivate energy, only sword force, only the pure Tao of the blade. No ranks, no masters, no bowing to anyone. Some of them are terrifyingly strong. Their leader's rumored to be a grandmaster. "I heard the true meaning of the sword in your strike. Tang Wu said, forehead to the dirt. I only wish to serve you the rest of my life. A swordsman needs no fame, no fortune. To hear that sound and die is enough. I swear it by sword oath. Break it, and let me and my blade be destroyed. Guang drew, and a blade of pure sword intent shredded the cloth wrapping, a strength beyond a fifth-rank master, wrung out of a man with 0 internal energy. Guang offered me the long sword in both hands. Among sword-bearers, giving your sword is giving your life. I'm not a stubborn man. I took it. The blade sang the moment it touched my hand, a cry it had never once given Tang Wu in all his years of nursing it, because a sword knows its owner, and its owner had just walked in. Ding! Host accepts a Sword Dao disciple, true martial Dao classic, the Dao of weapons, activated. I handed it back. It's a killing sword. It only grows by drinking blood. Stop trapping it in the dark. Guang slashed his own palm and fed it, and the blade sharpened toward a spirit of its own, right there in his hand. His eyes went wet with awe. Master, he said. I put my hands behind my back. Wild dragon, remember. And every dragon needs men who'll follow it into the fire. Get up. We've got a mountain to finish, and a whole Jianghu of hypocrites after that. So let me tell you how a mountain dies. Jiang Ye rallied his disciples with the oldest math in the Jianghu. They're few, we're many, swarm them. And for a heartbeat, it even looked true. Hundreds of disciples against a few dozen flying fish robes. Guang pointed his elders at me personally. Kill the bandit chief. Avenge Ming-Er. I raised one hand. Since nobody wants to live, fire. And 100 garrison soldiers stood up out of the tree line. That was the tiger tally at work, the gift from my masked friend, quietly cashed in. The Yudao sect had prepped for a police squad and got an army instead. The arrow storm came down like weather, and Jiang Ye's numbers advantage died screaming in the first volley, and the survivors' courage went with it. Where did the soldiers come from? I'm not fighting, I want to live. A sect is a terrifying thing, right up until the exact moment it becomes a crowd. The elders mobbed me. I killed 3 third-rankers in a handful of exchanges. The sword insights I'd looted off Gao Ming's corpse paying dividends already. And when Jiang Ye himself came in roaring with his full 4th-rank fury, I gave him the same courtesy I'd given his disciple. A fan of 12 Tang clan poison darts at conversational distance, too blind with grief to dodge them all. 3 hit. Guang went down spitting black, limbs dead, watching me behead the last of his loyal elders over him. Touching devotion, I told him. Don't worry. You'll join them shortly. And then, because this prefecture apparently ran a subscription service, 2 more 4th-rank masters burst in. The sect masters of the other 2 great powers of Xinjiang arrived to save their brother-in-arms, singing the anthem, "No chivalry is owed to a butcher like you." They fed Jiang Ye an antidote, formed up, and announced that the 3 of them would end me here, or die nameless. Your people ambush me, I said, and when I win, I'm the villain who has to be stopped 3-on-1. Do you people ever actually listen to yourselves? They didn't. They monologued instead. Gao Ming's murder attempt was a righteous act on heaven's behalf. I'd insulted a hero, right up until I said the quiet thing loudly. Thousands of laborers swindled and shipped out of this prefecture to the Dragon Abyss. Families stripped of their men, countless dead in a foreign pit. Was that also your righteous act? Their faces changed in unison, like 3 puppets on one string. Because they'd filed me under killer with a badge, and instead I was an investigator who'd traced the labor trafficking pipeline, and every one of the 3 great sects had hands in it, and that secret was worth more heads than they collectively owned. The righteousness fell off them mid-sentence. Guang knows. Kill him now. All 3 came at once. Hypocrites, I said, and stepped aside. Tang Wu, you're up. My hemp-robed disciple walked out, stroking the scarred longsword. The 3 masters actually laughed. Where'd this beggar stray come from? And attacked, and Tang Wu's blade came up trailing crimson sword force like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. And in a few strokes, 6 arms and 3 weapons were lying separately in the dirt. 3 sect masters, crippled by a beggar with 0 internal energy, gaping at him as he bowed to me. Master, these 3 are disabled. Please dispose of them. Rookie of the year. The 2 helpers went out defiant. Kill us. We'll be heroes in the next life. There is no next life, I told them, and took their heads. But don't worry. Your sects and families will be along shortly. Which left Jiang Ye. And Jiang Yi, who had watched his disciple die, his sect burn, and his own disciples, once they learned Gao Ming had started this entire war, trying to murder a court official for clout, turn and curse his name to his face. Jiang Yi broke all the way through. The dignified master of a great sect groveled in the dirt and lawyered me. You said if I guessed my disciple's fate, you'd spare 10 lives. I guessed. You must keep your word. I said I'd spare 10 dogs' lives, I reminded him. Are you a dog? I can be. Woof, woof, woof. I want you to sit with that image. The sect master of Leaf Blade Mountain, on his hands and knees in the ruins of his own legacy, barking. Guangdi bet everything on one last piece of Jianghu arithmetic, that no man dares butcher the shameless in front of witnesses. I stomped his head like a melon and wiped my boot. If shamelessness made you a dog, I told the mess, the Jianghu would be one big kennel. Host slays 3 major rebels of Xinjiang Prefecture. Reward, internal energy. The flood hit and blew through another barrier, 4th rank. And this breakthrough dropped the toy every mid-rank martial artist dreams of. Internal energy flowing into the blade itself, smooth as water into a channel. My true martial cleansed energy, so heavy and regal that the edge shone black and men's knees bent just looking at it. A brand new 4th ranker who could brawl with 5th rankers barehanded. Tang Wu watched his master casually skip a realm mid-afternoon and quietly revised his personal definition of the word genius. Search the mountain, I said. Don't let a hair escape. 2 days. That's all it took after that. I split the garrison with the Tiger Tally and parked troops on the other 2 sects' gates so nothing valuable grew legs, then took them down in order, the whole 3 great powers of Xinjiang Prefecture, line item, deleted from the map. Every raid ran the same engine. They'd all touched the labor pipeline. They'd all raised hands against the throne's officials, so, traitors, confiscation, resistors dead, the guilty in chains. Somewhere in there, I also cleared a certain debt. Wen Bing, the company commander who'd sold my route to a murderer and toasted my death in his own hall, the oriole behind the mantis, remember, learned exactly which bird had been sitting behind him the whole time. Collusion with the Jianghu to kill a colleague. The Imperial Secret Police has 1 sentence for that, and I'd already demoed it on Yi Chou. The traitors eating from our own pot die before the enemies outside it. And the prefecture split clean down the middle on how it remembered me. The martial artists whispered, "Demon," slammed their gates, and flinched at every flying fish robe on the street. And the common people, the ones getting their enslaved sons back, their stolen land back, walked 10 miles with food and wine to kneel at our column and call me a living bodhisattva. Same man, same blade. Depends entirely which end of it your family was on. Even the police stations changed. I kicked open the Baihu office door, hunting Wen Bing, and found a room full of officers on their knees before I'd said a word, and it annoyed me. Am I some bloodthirsty ghoul? You're the Imperial Secret Police and you kneel like your legs shipped without bones. Disgraceful. They froze, trapped between terror of standing and terror of kneeling, and I looked at these poor wretches, skimmed, beaten, starved by their own superiors, until bullying the weak was the only posture they had left, and gave them the first order of the new era. From today, the Imperial Secret Police answer to no one in Xinjiang Prefecture. Stand up straight. They shot to their feet with light in their eyes. The most powerful man in the prefecture had just become their patron. As for Wen Bing himself, the oriole, he'd already run. Packed decades of bribes into a wagon train, grabbed the family, and slipped over the prefecture border at dawn, breathing easier with every mile. Lin Wei has backing. Killing me would be nothing to him, but he'd never chase me into Longyuan Prefecture. Guang was congratulating himself on a deserted back road, right up until the road went too quiet and the hoofbeats came up behind him, and he turned and saw the one face in the great Qian he'd fled from. Commander Wen. Leaving without a word? Something urgent? Guang tried groveling first. I'm withdrawing. Spare my family. Bowed low, and used the bow to hide his hand going for the blade. A 4th-rank middle-stage master, a lifetime of cold ghost malicious blade behind one treacherous sneak cut. It was genuinely his best move of the whole story, which tells you everything about his story. My thunderblade met it mid-air and shattered his sword and both his hands. Guang dropped, and with the last of his voice begged me to kill him, because a man like him knew exactly what falling into my hands alive costs. I stood on his back. You offended me, I said. You don't even get to choose death. Execution for the man, after interrogation. Confiscation of everything, down to the last carriage of gold. The parasite who'd sold his colleagues to the Jianghu for decades, processed under the same law he'd spent a career selling. Host purges the internal parasite. Reward, soul-seeking incense for tracking. Even the system was getting thematic. Host sweeps a prefecture clean. Blade upgraded. Robe upgraded. My rank climbed with the body count. My 30 sloppy strongmen were a disciplined killing machine now, fat on bonuses and drunk on respect. Wherever I rode, the whisper ran ahead. Nightmare of the Jianghu. Don't be the family he looks at next. And every hypocrite I put down fed the system, and the system fed me, and the demon-slaying sword sang a little louder every time it drank. And every thread I'd pulled, the mine, the gangs, the sects, the pipeline of stolen men, braided into one rope, and the rope ran 300 miles to a mountain shaped like a flying sword. Sword-casting villa. The buyer at the end of every slave manifest in Jiangnan. Final boss located. Meanwhile, quietly, my grandfather kept his word. Everything I have to give. A tiger tally here, a prefecture garrison assigned to cooperate there. Doors that should have been bolted to a county squad leader swinging open like I held the deed. I was rising on my own blade, but somebody was greasing the hinges, and I knew exactly who, and I let him. A wild dragon doesn't refuse a tailwind. By the end of that stretch, I wasn't a squad leader anymore. I was a centurion, a company commander with a gold token and an imperial writ, and I'd become a problem too big for the local dogs to solve. So the throne sent help. 2 assistant commanders, 8th rank both of them. Chen Tao, quiet and lethal in a dark red python robe, and the commander, a career officer who obeyed the writ and hated every second of it. 2 monsters dispatched to back 1 centurion. Sit with that. A few months ago, the Lin family wouldn't spot me a bed. Now, the Emperor of Great Qian handed me 2 8th-rank killers and told them to follow my orders. Cha, the family, of course, would not let go. They never do, right up until you make them. My mother chased me across half a province. She caught up more than once, tears already running before she opened her mouth. Same cutscene every time. Ah Wei, stop this madness. Mother was wrong. Come home, be a good boy. I'll give you the best of everything. Can't we just be a happy family? I knew that look. I had seen it once before, the night 18 years of longing finally ended in reunion, when she made me all the exact same promises. And then those same promises walked the original Lin Wei straight into a beating that killed him. A sect this powerful is the best backdrop a man could ask for. Parents like these turn it into a grave. Promise me, she begged one day, grabbing my sleeve, thrilled that I didn't pull away. I let her hold on for 1 second, then I shook her off. Madam Lin, apart from nearly dying in the Zhejiang sect, I don't think you and I have any connection in this life. Fine, I forgive Valiant Zhao. Now stop bothering me. The hope drained out of her face, and something worse moved into the vacancy. Not pain, despair. Because for the first time, she wasn't telling herself the family broke by bad luck and cruel heaven. She looked at her son's flat, cold eyes and finally loaded the true thing. I am not a good mother. I didn't enjoy it. I want that on the record. But I'd already died once, trusting that woman's tears, and I wasn't spending a second life on the sequel. Here's the thing the fake heroes never patched for, though. 2 of their own golden children were watching, and they were done. The elder sister, Lin Xiao, the aloof one who ran the sect and used to file me under graceless dog, kept hearing me talk about the millions of laborers rotting in mines and slave pits. And she kept watching her father, the great Valiant Zhao, and everyone around him, meet those millions of ruined lives with a shrug. It didn't match one word of the benevolence and righteousness they'd raised her on. It broke something in her. And the little one, Lin Hua, the sick one, the only one who'd ever defended me, had been quietly on my side from the first hour, when she stood swaying in that hall and told her own father to his face that his chivalry was a luxury that would have killed her brother. Neither of them could stomach that house anymore. So while their parents chased me and coddled their golden boy, the 2 sisters turned and walked away from Valiant Zhao. Not toward me, exactly, but away from him, which in that family was the same direction. The most righteous man in the north was losing his children one at a time, and every one of them was leaving over the exact hypocrisy I'd named out loud in that first room. Turns out, you can't raise 4 kids on lies and only lose the one who calls you on it. Which brings us to the last mountain, the big one, sword-casting villa, one of the 9 great sects. Forgers of the Long Yuan sword, a heaven-grade divine weapon, one of the ultimate blades of the age, said to still hold the soul of a grandmaster in its steel. For generations, the villa had ruled its patch like local emperors, and lately they'd gotten greedy. They'd found a dragon vein under their mountain. Tap it, and their weak master might finally swing the Long Yuan sword at full power and drag the whole sect back to its peak. To feed that dream, they'd been running mines and slave pits of their own, grinding men to death by the thousand. And I made very sure the story of it traveled, because that was the one thing the Emperor of Great Qian could not shrug off. The court had spent a century pretending not to see the sects carve up the land. Fine, whatever, keep the peace. But a sect murdering millions of the Emperor's own subjects, out loud, where everyone could hear? Ignore that, and the people stop believing the Great Qian is a country for them at all. And the day they stop believing is the day the throne turns to sand. So the emperor, who couldn't afford to look, was forced to look. And he sent his answer down the road to sword-casting villa. 2 8th-rank assistant commanders and 1 centurion in a black flying fish robe with a very long memory, under a writ that said, "This sect pays." And I didn't ride up quietly. First, I spread the word, leaked the rumor of the villa's mountain treasure across the whole Jianghu, and let greed do my crowd control for me. By the time I arrived, every power in Jiangnan had coincidentally shown up at sword-casting villa at the same time, all of them circling the rumored dragon vein like flies over meat, all of them now conveniently standing in exactly one place. If you're going to indict a whole class of people, first get them all in the same room. Aggro the whole map, then AoE. But before we get to the siege, you need to know why my beloved family was standing on that mountain at all. Because it's perfect. They'd come shopping. For a sword. For the golden boy. Valiant Zhao had ridden up to sword-casting villa with a gift box of century-old Tianshan snow ginseng, a treasure that would make an injured 8th-ranker weep, and Villa Master Xielin fell over himself hosting the great man, promising a custom-forged, high-grade human-rank blade for the young alliance leader. Half a month's work, our absolute honor. And my father turned to his children, glowing, and delivered the lecture. You see, be polite and righteous, and the Jianghu opens every door. Chivalry alone makes you invincible. Circumstances are never an excuse. Standing in the guest hall of a slave empire, buying weapons from the butchers of 1,000,000 men, absolutely thrilled with the customer service. And little Lin Hua, freezing quietly at the back, thought about the ragged man she'd watched kneel and beg at the villa gate for a blade that morning, and get thrown out, politer than all of them, and ejected anyway, and grasped the actual lesson. It was never the manners, it was the status. But she kept it to herself, because she had a project running. She wanted to see me. She worked her mother first. We're 100 miles from second brother, can't we visit? And Li Mei's eyes lit up, and for 1 second it almost happened. Then my father force-closed it. No, the son pays respects to the parents, not the other way around. The Jianghu would laugh. She tried again, gently, cleverly, just quietly. He'd never know. Nobody loses face. And he actually wavered, guilt flickering. And right on cue, the golden boy stuck his head in. "Father, Master Guang wants to discuss my sword. They're custom-fitting it." And my father lit up and walked out mid-sentence. "Leilei's sword comes first. We'll discuss your brother later." And forbade my mother from going without him because she was too soft-hearted and might actually forgive me, and imagine the embarrassment. Lin Hua stood there and ran the math no one else in that family could face. Her second brother ranked lower than another son's sword. So the sick little girl smiled sweetly at her big sister and pitched an innocent shopping trip down to the city. Cosmetics? Sister, Jiangnan has the best. And Lin Xiao, suspicious. "You're plotting to see that man. You'll be corrupted." Folded under the hug assault the way big sisters do. The only member of the Lin family with a working heart was busy scheming family reunification behind enemy lines, wondering if her second brother's boss was bullying him. Her second brother, at that exact moment, was assembling 3,000 men to burn down the hotel her family was staying in. Life writes better jokes than I do. One more thing happened on my road there. The masked man found me again, silver mask this time, with an invitation. His master requested my company at a banquet in Longyuan Prefecture City. Name withheld. You'll know when you arrive. I went. Of course I went. I'd been wanting a look at the hand behind the tiger tally. And in the finest restaurant of the villa's own city, the night before the storm, I finally sat at a table with the man who'd been quietly loading my board for weeks. The old man from the capital, my mother's father. We'll circle back to what was said. What matters is what it meant. For the first time in 2 lives, somebody powerful was on my side, before I won, not after. Now, the mountain. Standing among the gathered masters when I arrived, the exact last people I wanted underfoot on the busiest day of my career. Valiant Zhao, my mother with my sick little sister on her arm, and the golden brother, healed up and hungry, hand already on his sword. My mother reached for me first, tears preloaded. "Ah Wei, let your mother look at you. I heard how you've suffered." And her fingers came at my face, and an embroidered spring blade, crackling with faint lightning, rose between us like a city wall. "Madam Lin, we severed ties. Kindly stop talking nonsense." She froze mid-reach, stunned all over again that the wall was load-bearing. Then the familiar thunder. "Unfilial beast, put down that blade. You've committed every evil under heaven, and you dare show your face here?" Valiant Zhao himself, pressing down with his 9th-rank aura until my blade arm bent against my will. "Why wouldn't I dare?" I smiled up into the pressure. "If I hadn't come, you'd all still be standing on 1,000,000 corpses, chatting about chivalry. That was the topic, wasn't it? Valiant Zhao?" I said his title the way you'd flick mud off a boot, and I watched the anger on his face curdle into something better, fear, because the great hero's mind was finally running the sum he'd spent 5 years refusing to load. Sword-casting Villa had recruited 1,000,000 laborers across the land to dig one mountain, and a mountain can't hold 1,000,000 men, and there was only one place they could have gone. Guang shook, not for the dead, for his name. If this gets out, decades of reputation, the sect, the family, ruined. And then he did what he always does. Silence, beast! Stop confusing the crowd with evil words. Confusing the crowd? I laughed at him. You think those men are only dead if I say it out loud? Half the Longyuan circuit is torn families and empty houses. Go on, great hero. Use your famous reputation to shut all of them up. Guang had no answer. Guang stood there, black-faced, with regret leaking out of his eyes, and not one drop of it for the dead. The gathered masters panicked on cue and rounded on Xielin, the lives of millions. Sword-casting Villa owes an explanation, not because they cared, but because they'd suddenly realized I'd baited every one of them into standing at the scene of the crime. Group photo at the murder site, courtesy of me. And Xielin, cornered, delivered a masterpiece of the genre. The mountain holds fire essence, mined for the good of all chivalry. The laborers all signed contracts and were paid. Their sacrifice served the greater righteous path. And anyway, didn't the great Qian kill 100 times more laborers building its walls? The crowd applauded with relief and joined the choir. Well said for the greater good. How dare an imperial dog question heroes? Every one of them knowing precisely how filthy it was, and clapping anyway, because they were all in the same blood up to the same elbows. And my father? The man who could not stoop to open shamelessness, because his whole brand was built on the tasteful kind? Guang sighed a great heroic sigh, and announced that had he known, he'd never have associated with such men, and that once this matter settled, he would atone by guarding the northern border against the barbarians for 10 years. The crowd swooned. What a hero! Guang didn't even deny anything, and he's already atoning. Only Xielin trembled with rage at being outperformed, thinking the truest sentence anyone thought all day. Zhao Chang is the most shameless of us all. My family, ladies and gentlemen. Give them a hand. Then, Xielin turned the crowd's fear on me and told me to get out. A mere 4th-rank dog, lucky to be left alive. Can't, I said pleasantly. I have business. Same business as everyone else here, I imagine. Or did all of you, coincidentally, visit on the same day? Their faces stiffened because I'd just said the dragon vein out loud without saying it, and if the great Qian court learned what was really under that mountain, their whole feeding frenzy was over. Xielin sneered that the villa's weapons were forged only for men of virtue and righteousness. You are not worthy. And the whole crowd laughed at the beggar dog, my golden brother loudest of all, drunk on the sight of me being refused in public. Not virtuous enough, I said. Let me go get my virtue. I signaled. Horns, flags. The ground began to shake. They turned, mockery still drying on their faces, and watched my virtue come up the road. 100 flying fish robes on horseback, squad leader rank and up, cold blade cultivators every one. Behind them, 1,000 crossbow police, hundreds carrying mysterious cold crossbows, all loaded. Behind them, ranks of garrison troops in armor, 2,000 men per prefecture, called up under a bronze tiger tally, filling the whole approach to the mountain. And through the middle of that forest of steel rode a man in a dark red python robe with a gold token swinging at his waist, who dismounted, bowed to me, and took up station at my shoulder, an 8th-rank assistant commander of the capital, on loan from the emperor himself. The laughter had stopped a little while ago. Well, Master Guang, I said into the silence, is my virtue sufficient now? Enough to ask for a sword? If not, the 13 prefectures of Longyuan circuit can send along a few thousand more. Virtue, acquired. Stack size, 3,000. Guang ground his teeth to powder and offered the compromise of a defeated man. Go home, centurion, and the villa will forge your weapon and deliver it personally. And I smiled and declined and unveiled the real shape of the trap. By your own Jianghu rules, first come, first served. I arrived last. I'll simply wait my turn, here, until every guest ahead of me has received what they came for. My men brought a month of supplies. No rush at all. Watch the faces run the math. Nobody could leave, and you forfeit your cut of the dragon vein. Nobody could stay, and you're camping in front of 1,000 Imperial crossbows while an Imperial inspector waits to see what actually comes crawling out of that mountain. I'd chained the entire Jiangnan underworld to its own greed with one sentence. The master of Dragon Whale Island tried to donate his place in line just to break the soft lock, and I declined that too. Why haven't you gone home then? Planning something? And he choked on it. And somewhere behind the front row, my mother stood, holding my sister, staring at the son she'd called weak and vicious. One young man in a black robe, calmly strangling a mountain full of legends, and could not make the render match the memory. So they reached for the last tool in the Jianghu box, the duel. The Dragon Whale Master invoked the sacred rules. You killed a ranked man, so you can be challenged, and you cannot refuse. Guang put forward his champion, the guard of the Ning Mansion, ranked 80th on the human list, 4th rank peak, master of a layered force art built to maim without killing. The plan wasn't subtle. Cripple me with internal injuries in a friendly spar, and the assistant commander, who plainly wanted no part of this, would have no excuse to intervene. The dog dies politely, the army marches home. No spar, I said. My sword doesn't go back in its sheath until it's drawn blood. The guard heard cowardice and charged, twin halberds up, roaring about rules. One flash. His blood made my point for me, and the halberds hit the dirt with their owner still attached. The friendly spar was over before the crowd finished inhaling, and every master on that mountain quietly refiled me from arrogant dog to do not touch, which is when the last person with a grievance and no sense decided it was his big moment. Because, of course, before I could raid a sect and settle a nation's account, I had one older item still open on the books. A slap. From a spoiled little brother, months ago. I told him I'd pay it back. I always keep that particular kind of promise, with interest. My mother tried once more, sleeve grab. Ah, wait, stop, come home, I beg you. And got the cold version, and froze, finally out of dreams to reboot. Then the golden boy charged. You ruined my mother's happiness, I'll never forgive you. Lin lay, sword up, the intercepting river blades screaming toward my skull. Today, the young alliance leader would personally patch out the family's shame. I drew and met him. Thunder cracked off the steel. And, credit where it's due, the little prince had teeth. 5th rank, raised on heaven and earth treasures, and his sword was a grade finer than mine. Dragon-touched energy swallowed my lightning. First exchange, I came off worse. Lele, no! My mother cried, but Lin Lei screamed her down. Don't stop me! If I don't kill this traitor, I can't show my face in the Jianghu! The righteous young hero, threatening his own mother's peace to murder his brother. A true hero sacrifices anything. She stood frozen, torn between two sons, feet nailed to the ground. The whole villa gawked. Valiant Zhao's 2 boys, killing each other. Biggest gossip in the Jianghu, streaming live. You've got some fire, I said, and stopped playing. Guang threw everything into it. The Zhejiang sword strike, his sect's finest. One decisive killing blow, a phantom river roaring off the blade. A move built to end a fight in a single cut. I answered with the 100 Battles Reincarnation Blade. Not one strike, a storm of them. Every flash a scheduled death. And somewhere in that storm, his single perfect cut simply couldn't find a target. His eyes went wide. Where are the vital points? Why can't I see the opening? There wasn't one. There was only the blade, everywhere at once. His sword spun out of his hands and hit the dirt, and my saber kept going, straight for his chest. Away, no! My mother threw her 8th rank energy in to stop me, and a howl of wind-sharp sword intent swatted it clean out of the air. An old man in a straw hat, leaning on a cane, standing very calmly off to the side. No more interference from Madame Lin. Grandpa vetoed it. I drove the embroidered spring blade into the defenseless golden boy. I told you, I said. I'd pay back the slap. Golden light burst, his hidden armor, some priceless treasure, eating 70–80% of the force. The rest still shattered it and threw him across the ground in a spray of his own blood. The young alliance leader, ranked 30th on the human list, the pride of Valiant Zhao's whole life. Flat on his back, coughing red, staring up at the orphan he'd slapped, one word coming apart behind. His eyes. Why? The watching masters forgot how to breathe. Lin lay, beaten, no, broken, by a lawless imperial dog with no legacy, no chivalry, nothing. Everything they believed about who deserves power just died in the dirt in front of them. And the thing under the disbelief was pure terror. Because if the ruthless one could do that, then everyone he'd ever marked, every family, every sect, every hypocrite on the mountain was already dead and just hadn't finished falling yet. Host defeats a powerful enemy, proving the Imperial Secret Police hold a top genius. Reward, internal energy. 4th rank late stage. I put the blade away. My mother scooped up her broken golden boy, wailing. And Valiant Zhao, who'd rushed back the instant he heard his sons had turned on each other, arrived to find his masterpiece bleeding out on the ground. And for one rare moment, the dignified mask cracked into naked panic. Guang gathered Lin Lei up. Divine Physician Mountain, now, we can't let this become a lasting injury. Guang shot me one long, deep, unreadable look. Then he ran. My mother followed, then stopped, turned back, and read me the last line she had left. Mother will never give up hope. We will always be mother and son. And then she was gone, chasing the golden boy down the mountain. And the 2 sisters? Already leaving the other way. Lin Xiao guiding the sick Lin Hua under a servant's escort. Both of them done, for good, with a father whose benevolence had no room in it for 1,000,000 dead laborers or one thrown-away son. So Valiant Zhao came up the mountain with a wife and 3 golden children. Guang left it with a shattered heir, a wife out of hope, and 2 daughters walking away from everything he stood for. I didn't lay a finger on his precious reputation. I just stood in one spot, being exactly what I am, and let it pull his whole beautiful family apart at the seams. Turns out, that's all it ever took. No damage roll required. Chapter The Lin family was gone. The villa's masters were still very much present, and suddenly, a lot less brave, because Valiant Zhao's departure meant nobody was coming to save them. I let the silence sit. Then, soft. The incense has burned out. Whichever of you righteous friends wants to walk away, do it now. Or would you rather have your homes raided and your families wiped out? Panic ran through them like ice water. Every petty master who'd shown up to help sword-casting villa defend chivalry suddenly ran the numbers on his own household. Their master, Xia Lin, snapped them back in line. You think he's waiting for people? Guang's forcing us to kneel. Pay him off once, and he finds another reason for the next family, and the next. No, sword-casting villa will take the hit for all of you. Very noble. Except Xia Lin cared about chivalry exactly as much as I do, which is to say, not at all. Guang cared about the dragon vein under his feet, and about making sure no imperial dog ever learned it was there. Guang'd torch every friend on that mountain to keep his secret and his sword. So they chose to fight. Fine by me. You've made up your minds to be accomplices, I said. Then we'll take the lot of you right here. I gave the order. Empty the quivers. Arrow storm. The villa's disciples had no century of memory to warn them about massed crossbow fire from the emperor's dogs. The court had looked weak for 100 years. Who'd expect this? Keite and they died in rows, screaming, turned to pincushions before they closed the distance. Xia Lin and his elders burned internal energy to swat bolts from the air and still lost men by the fistful. Lin Wei, I'll kill you! Xia Lin roared and did the obvious thing. Catch the king, drop the army. Guang led every 7th rank master he had straight at the commander, gambling that numbers would drown one 8th rank officer. They almost had him. The commander gave ground under the weight of them. Today you dogs learn what the Jianghu really is, Xia Lin crowed, drunk on the advantage. Yeah, I said. Lord Ai, you can stop lurking now. A ghost peeled off the shadows. Chen Tao's hand closed on a 7th rank master's neck. Crack, black smoke curling, the body dropping before anyone rendered what happened. A dark red python robe, an embroidered spring blade, a gold Imperial Secret Police token. A second 8th rank monster standing at my shoulder. Surprise, there were 2 of us the whole time. The mountain froze. The math they'd bet their lives on just tore in half. 2 8th rank officers sent by the throne itself, the great Chen, had never intended to negotiate. It meant to erase sword-casting villa from the very start, and I was just the writ that made it official. Xia Lin's face went the color of ash. You madman! Why did you have to target me? There are crueler sects than mine everywhere. Why sword-casting villa? Because you had a dragon vein and a slave mine and a secret worth a nation's blood, old man. And because I got to choose. And I chose the mountain that thought it was untouchable. Guang swallowed all his pride and tried the only door left. Guang turned his back on me, a mere centurion in his eyes, and bowed straight to the 2 assistant commanders. My lords, sword-casting villa means no disrespect. We'll offer treasures, an explanation, a settlement. The throne will be satisfied. His own elders begged him not to grovel. Guang screamed them down, better bent than buried. And the commander, who'd hated this writ from the first mile, who wanted nothing more than to close the ticket and go home, softened. A settlement with a great sect. No war with the Jianghu. Mission complete? Guang started to nod. Chen Tao's hand shot out and stopped him. His Majesty put Centurion Lin in charge of this operation. Chen Tao's voice was flat as a blade. The commander isn't qualified to grant Master Xia Lin anything. The commander whipped around, furious, ready to demand why an 8th rank officer would take orders from a company commander. And then his expression changed, because an old man in a straw hat had stepped out of the crowd and was leaning, very calmly, on his cane. The same old man who'd swatted my mother's 8th rank strike out of the sky like a housefly. Elder Ji. Another blade in my corner nobody had counted. My board had more hidden pieces than theirs had pieces. So Xia Lin's last door slammed shut. No surrender, no settlement, no walking away. Master Guang, I said, I offered you the chance to leave. Whether the Imperial Secret Police wipe you out was never up to you. It's up to me. I raised my voice. Fire! Kill the traitors! Leave no one alive! The mountain became a slaughterhouse. Crossbows and cold steel on one side, panicked disciples on the other, bodies stacking into a painting of hell. Jielin's own grand disciple, the villa's finest swordsman, charged me, screaming for my blood, and lost his head at my feet before he finished the sentence, blood spraying across my face till I looked like a demon out of a ghost story. Host's victory lifts the honor of the Imperial Secret Police. Reward, 10 years of hard Qigong experience. Chen Tao and the commander tore into the 7th rankers. Jielin, watching his masterpiece disciple die and his whole life's work burn, stopped being a sect master and became a cornered animal. Guang fought like one, and when even that wasn't enough, when Chen Tao's black blade pushed him back 100 steps and the numbers stopped saving him, he did the thing he'd been hiding all along, the thing this whole massacre was really about. Rise, ancestral sword! The mountain shook, the clouds tore open, and a beam of light screamed off the peak into Jielin's hand, crimson sword energy, the shadow of a dragon coiling in it, an aura that dropped terror into everyone who looked. The Long Yuan sword, the heaven-grade divine weapon. Out at last. Final. Boss, Phase 2. We're saved! With the Long Yuan sword, these imperial dogs are nothing, the masters howled, right up until I opened my mouth. I wonder if Master Guang can even swing it, I said. Don't put on a show and embarrass yourself. That killed the cheering fast, because everyone knew the ugly fine print of that blade. It takes a grandmaster to wield the Long Yuan sword, and sword-casting Villa hadn't produced a grandmaster since the forger himself. Jielin wasn't even 8th rank. The sword doesn't lift you, it eats you. Level requirement not met, but he equipped it anyway. Guang didn't care. Guang was past caring. Guang gripped it two-handed, ground his teeth, and dumped every drop of internal energy he had into the blade. Heaven-grade sword energy erupted, a phantom sword 10 zhang long, dragon shadow writhing down its length, killing intent so thick it buckled the knees of everyone watching. The Long Yuan sword drank his energy like a whirlpool, his body withered as it fed. The hands gripping the hilt split open under the sword energy, blood running, white bone showing through. Die under the might of the Long Yuan sword! Guang swung, at Chen Tao and the commander both, one suicidal strike to take 2 8th-rank officers at once. The dragon shadow roared out with a force that could split the mountain, and the old man in the straw hat moved. Elder Ji Li stepped in front of the divine sword's edge, one frail figure, cane and all, and a howling gale of the sharpest sword energy I'd ever felt tore out of him. Swift-wind sword Dao. The two forces slammed together and locked, screamed, and shattered into a shockwave that shoved the entire mountain back half a step. When it cleared, Elder Ji Li stood there, bloodied, hunched, leaning on his cane, an old man again, but standing. Guang tanked a full strike from a heaven-grade divine weapon, and he was still on his feet, eyes gleaming with a swordsman's joy. Jielin spat a mouthful of blood. His Long Yuan strike, the one that hollowed out his own foundation to throw, blocked. By one old man. His mind broke the rest of the way. Impossible! I don't believe it! And the madman raised the Long Yuan sword again. Guang was already ruined, aged decades in a breath, hands cut to the bone, foundation gone. A second strike would cost him everything he had left. Guang didn't care about that either. Guang poured what remained of his life into the divine sword for one more swing, and the whole mountain caught its breath in pure terror, because Elder Ji Li was hurt, and the Long Yuan sword was rising, and there was nothing between that blade and all of us but a bleeding old man on a cane. Just then, the old man spoke, no fear in it at all. Master, your disciple is useless. I'll have to rely on you. Master? The whole mountain froze. Elder Ji Li, a swordsman good enough to eat a Long Yuan strike and stay standing, was somebody's disciple? What kind of monster teaches a man like that? I stepped forward. The Long Yuan sword? I said, and glanced at Elder Ji Li and Tong Wu. Watch closely. Every jaw dropped. A top-tier expert calls you master, and you, a 4th-rank centurion, walk out to take a heaven-grade divine weapon on the chin? That's not brave, that's a respawn request. A dying 8th-ranker's Long Yuan strike could kill a 9th-rank grandmaster. What's a 4th-rank dog going to do about it? Only my own men from Jianghu didn't flinch. They'd followed me across a whole prefecture, watching the impossible become Tuesday. Lord Lin's moved. Guang's got this. No evidence for it. They believed anyway. That's what a good guild does. Jielin raised the sword, dragon roar shaking the sky, and brought it down. You overestimate yourself. When you're dead, my men will bring me your head. The dark gold sword energy came down like the end of the world. I let the word out cold. The Long Yuan sword? Let's see what makes a heaven-grade weapon so special. And I drew the demon-slaying sword. Black, broken, bottomless. It looked like a hole cut in the world. No dragon power, no mountain of internal energy behind it, just sword intent, pure, absolute, edge so sharp the air bled. Everyone within reach felt thin red lines open across their own faces. Nobody had time to notice. They forgot how to breathe. The demon-slaying sword's intent didn't block the Long Yuan sword. It ate it. The dragon might that no ninth ranker could stop scattered like a kicked stray. Xielin's eyes bugged out. Impossible! The wind rises, I murmured. A breeze came up, soft, and colder than any blade, because it wasn't wind, it was sword energy, shaped like wind, the edge hidden in the breath of it. The sword is in the wind, and the wind is in the sword. On the ground, Elder Ji Li's own weapon fell out of his hands, and the old man dropped to his knees and kowtowed through his own blood, weeping with joy, because his master had just shown him the summit of the entire sword Dao, the thing he'd chased his whole life. Gale sword intent, the ultimate, the endgame technique, live. I sheathed the sword, turned my back on Xielin, didn't look at him again. The sword wind swept past and lifted the corner of my robe, and it kept going, into Xielin. His eyes went wide, his face locked in one last snarl, and his whole body came apart into slices before it hit the dirt. The Long Yuan sword clanged down beside him, dragon power guttering out, and went quiet. Host slays the ringleader. Reward, internal energy. A flood of it, enough to punch straight through a realm barrier. 4th rank, late stage to 5th rank, 1 jump. And in the system space, the demon-slaying sword shuddered and drank the dead Long Yuan sword's dragon intent, mended part of itself, the broken fragment growing back toward the real thing. Loot the divine weapon by absorbing it. Best drop of the arc. I walked over and picked up the Long Yuan sword, watched the last of its dragon light drain into my black blade. When I was done, it was scrap metal. Heaven-grade divine weapon? I shook my head. Nothing special. I'll be honest with you, since it's just us. That was a coincidence wearing a miracles costume. Xielin couldn't actually wield the Long Yuan sword, no grandmaster to command it, so he'd been chucking raw dragon energy like a man swinging a gold bar as a club. If he'd had one more grade of control, or if I'd been 1 grade weaker, I'd have grabbed my 2 disciples and noped out the second he went mad. No what-ifs, though. The Jianghu loves swords. I just love the one that eats them. Come then, business. The rebel leader Xielin is executed, I told the frozen room. Now, Sung, you remember my standing orders? A Qinghe veteran's eyes lit up. Sword-casting villa, leave no one alive. The rest of the Jianghu, equally guilty. Leave no one alive, the whole company roared, looking at me with more awe than they spared for 2 8th-rank assistant commanders. The villa's masters, so brave with their insults 10 minutes ago, dropped their swords and their spines in one motion. Don't kill me, I'll never oppose the court again. Spare me, Lord Lin, Grandpa Lin. Thousands of martial artists on their knees, easier to herd than stampeding pigs. The commander, the 8th ranker who'd almost signed Xielin's surrender behind my back, came over, bowing and scraping, all admiration now. I grinned. Lord Chen, I liked you better with some fight in you. Chin up. A company commander lecturing an assistant commander, and the assistant commander nodding along like a scolded intern, terrified I might still be annoyed he'd nearly overruled me. Command structures are wonderful when they point your way. Guang wanted the Long Yuan sword to carry back to the emperor. I picked up the ruined thing, admired the dragon pattern a while, and tossed it to him. Guang almost caught it, remembered it was a heaven-grade divine weapon, and yanked his hands back in terror. Right up until Elder Ji Li snatched it out of the air, wiped off the dust, and glared him down. I wouldn't take it if you gave it to me. A sword in your hands is an insult. The commander laughed weakly, and, once he grasped the sword was now a very fancy paperweight, decided not to bring it home, because how do you explain to the emperor that a centurion killed the Long Yuan sword? You'd be executed for lying about a thing that was true. And Elder Ji Li held that dead legendary blade like a trophy, glowing. To him it wasn't scrap. It was the sword his master had used to show him the top of the mountain, worth more than 10 heaven-grade weapons. Half a day later, sword-casting villa, a century-old giant that ruled all of Jiangnan, was a swept-clean ruin. Sealed gate, empty market, a pool of blood, and a field of fresh graves. Host destroys a massive rebel force. The Imperial Secret Police are famous throughout the Jianghu. Then the system paid out, and it wasn't shy. My blade upgraded, thunder patterns now laced with frost. My robe upgraded, dragon silk, the 4-clawed fish gone quietly regal. And then the part that made me sit up. 500 divine arm crossbows, 10 divine power bed crossbows, 10 thunderbolt catapults. That is not gear for a secret police squad. That's a siege army. The system had looked at my little hobby of raiding mansions and decided to properly sponsor the channel. Chen Tao walked in, saw the hall's ceiling hung with masterwork weapons used as decoration, one of which an ordinary smith might make once in a lifetime, and whistled. Sword-casting villa really is a casting giant. So rich. It's the people's blood money, I said, and I meant people's blood money. To train one weapon caster, this villa burns 10,000 caddies of pig iron. Mining it, smelting it, refining a pound of steel out of 100 pounds of ore. Every step is somebody's cracked hands and unpaid wages. The caster sits in a cool hall waiting for the finished blade, and it's his name that gets stamped in the steel. The thousands who died to make it don't get a line. Chen Tao stared. Most martial artists float above the mud. They'd never spare a thought for the men who dug it. I never imagined Lord Lin loved the common people so much, he said, or studied it so closely. I'm impressed. I shook my head. I come from a poor family. My parents were ordinary blacksmiths. You learn these things at a forge. The room went quiet. Isn't Lord Lin the son of Valiant Zhao, and now his parents are ordinary blacksmiths again? There's a whole story in that swap, and everyone in the room felt it. Some stormy years, I said, aren't worth mentioning. And their respect went up another notch, because they understood the shape of it without the details. A man who climbed from a forge to the 7th name in the world, which is 100 times harder than being born a hero's son. They didn't know the half of it, but the half they knew was enough. That's the thing the Lin family never understood, standing in their palace of stamped steel treasures. The name in the blade is never the hand that made it. I was raised by the hands, not the name. Keep that hammer on screen. Which is exactly why the dead demon under this mountain was about to hand me an entire second life. Libica's sword-casting villa had a secret worth a nation's blood, and it was buried in a pit behind the mountain. The back slope was a hidden hell instance. Thatched huts, half-naked laborers with sallow faces and broken limbs, all staring in terror at one thing, a colossal hole in the earth that had swallowed thousands of lives. Down in it, men hauled stone in packed rows, and sword-casting villa disciples in fine robes walked the line, cracking whips. One old laborer stumbled under his load, ribs already broken. The disciple whipped him, screamed at him to move, and when he couldn't, flung the corpse into a corner like garbage, and told the rest to keep digging, or their whole families couldn't pay the debt. Guarding it all sat an elder Xie on a silk cushion with fruit and wine, waiting for the pit to go deeper. Because the deeper it went, the stronger a strange dragon energy grew, and in about 10 days, the energy would be too much for ordinary men to survive at all. What happens to the laborers then? A young disciple asked. Elder Xie didn't even open his eyes. We get rid of them all. They should feel honored to die for sword-casting villa's return to the top. My men came out of the trees like shadows and put the guards face down in the dirt before they finished their war cry. There was a laborer down there, one arm, covered in wounds, done. When a black-clad figure with a blade walked toward him, he didn't run. Guang knelt, looked up at the sky, and said goodbye to his mother. I broke my promise. I can't come home to take care of you. I'll be your son again next life, because in this world, ordinary men aren't men, and nobody comes to save them. The blade flashed, and the disciple behind him dropped dead, and one of my men hauled the dazed old laborer to his feet. Find a place to hide, not too far. It's easier to send you all home together. Send you home. Guang braced to die, and instead, somebody was arranging his ride home. Turns out, one official in the whole rotten Great Qian did come to save them. I'm not a nice man, but I know exactly what a broken-armed man kneeling to die for his mother feels like, because 2 blacksmiths taught me, and the men who did this to him were about to learn that lesson personally. The pit was cleared. The dragon energy was real. So I went down to see the thing Chen Tao had barely escaped, the thing he swore wasn't a dragon vein at all, but a great demon lurking in the dark. Guang was right. At the bottom, coiled in a cavern under the entire mountain, was a serpent the size of a mountain range, white-scaled, blood-eyed, thousands of years old, radiating power that had scared off a lifetime of experts. It woke up, angry. And I, 5th rank, on my best day, was an ant that had wandered into its bedroom. Here's where the golden finger stopped being a police badge and started being something a lot older. My inheritance, the true martial Tao classic, belongs to the true martial emperor Jianghu, a being who commanded 2 divine generals, the tortoise and the snake. And when that ancient serpent reared up to end me, a phantom rose out of my inheritance, a projection of Jianghu himself. What followed, I will remember with love for the rest of my life. The phantom took 2 tools from my system, a dragon binding rope and a demon fighting staff, both heaven grade. And it did not so much fight the mountain serpent as discipline it, roped it at the 7-inch, cracked it across the skull with the staff. The serpent crashed down, tried to rise, got clubbed down again. The phantom put 1 foot on it and cinched the rope until the monster's body shrank to half its width. And I swear, the only expression on the phantom's face was, "Are we clear now?" The serpent roared. I disagree. So the phantom kicked it, and kicked it, One kick, a mouthful of blood. Another kick. Outside, Elder Jili and Chen Tao felt the whole mountain shaking and panicked that the demon was killing me. While down in the pit, an emperor's ghost was beating a 1,000-year-old god like it had missed a loan payment. When it was over, the serpent lay flat, scales scattered, head dyed red, and the phantom nodded, satisfied, and faded away. I approached, wary. The serpent's eyes flashed contempt at the tiny ant, until the rope smacked the ground once more, and the great demon flinched, shrank down to the size of a normal python, scurried over, and nuzzled my hand, like a dog that hadn't seen its owner in years. Congratulations, you have subdued the celestial serpent. Make it your snake. General? I don't turn down a free mountain god. A pure, majestic power wound out of me and stripped the wild dragon blood out of the serpent, leaving only the clean celestial snake bloodline, the snake general of Jianghu. A cord clicked into place in my mind, connecting us. Snake general recruited. Now find and subdue the turtle general. Gather both and command the great Tao of yin and yang. One general down, one to go. The whole yin-yang Tao of the true martial emperor, assembling piece by piece. New collection quest just dropped. There was, admittedly, a catch. The phantom fixed the serpent's attitude beautifully, and its power not at all, beaten from near grandmaster down to roughly a 9th-rank martial artist, which, since there are no grandmasters left in this age, is still the top of the ladder. I'd grind the rest back later. I looked at my new mountain-sized attack dog, now the size of a house cat and grinning like an idiot. Female, my memories said. So I named her. From now on, you're Ling. She stared. Thousands of years old, big enough to eat a village, and the emotional maturity of a 4-year-old. Then it clicked that the little ant had given her a name, the first thing she'd ever owned, and she wagged her tail and beamed. Jianghu's snake general, delighted as a puppy on adoption day. And with the demon subdued, the cavern showed its true face, spirit herbs growing wild off the rocks, treasures scattered in the dirt, and wisps of genuine dragon energy bleeding up from below. A real dragon vein, where Ling had slept 1,000 years, drinking it, growing, until she woke and the leaking dragon energy fooled a whole sect into digging their own graves. I fed that dragon vein energy straight into the demon-slaying sword, and its dragon intent swelled towards something that would one day out-terror Lin at his maddest. Then I found the last thing, half buried in the treasure pile, a tattered black flag. Powerless, ancient, and I could not take my eyes off the patterns on it. Jianghu black tortoise flag obtained. Heaven-grade flag weapon. Collect the remaining materials. I nearly stopped breathing. The Jianghu black flag. The sky-covering flag. Another of the true martial emperor's own divine treasures. Same tier as a whole demon-slaying sword. Lin had proven with his life that the legendary Long Yuan sword was a toy next to my black blade. And now I was holding a second Jianghu artifact. 2-piece legendary set, one boss. A demon-slaying sword regrowing itself. A snake general curled at my feet. A sky-covering flag in my hand, and the road to the 9th rank and past it suddenly looking a lot shorter. I looked up out of the pit toward the north, toward a certain hero's certain sect. The 9 great sects, I said. Jianghu sect. Wait for me. By the time I was done, sword-casting villa didn't exist. Masters dead, guilty disciples executed, the rest crippled and hauled off to slavery. The exact fate they'd handed 1,000 laborers. Everything of value confiscated, the gate sealed with a red stamp. When the old friends of the villa finally rode in to help, they found a graveyard so quiet it echoed. I'd even had the bodies buried, plague control mostly, but let's file it under kindness. And the Jianghu lost its mind. Sword-casting villa, one of the great powers of the age, wiped off the map in one afternoon by the emperor's laughing-stock dogs. Every arrogant sect in Jiangnan suddenly felt a draft on the back of its neck. I'd walked into this province a beaten squad leader with a hammer and a grudge. I was leaving it with an army's arsenal, a divine flag, a tamed god, and the 7th strongest name in the entire Great Qian dynasty. Which, funny story, was exactly how my beloved family found out how badly they'd misjudged the son they swept away. Meanwhile, on Divine Physician Mountain, Valiant Zhao was pacing. They'd hauled the golden boy to the best doctor in the land and poured a fortune of heaven and earth treasures into keeping his martial future intact. My mother sat by his bed, crying. My father stalked the room, complaining the doctor was late, and, mostly, complaining about me. That unfilial son is wicked to the bone, hid his strength this whole time, then struck down his own brother. Lele only attacked in desperation. How dare the dog hit back? Read that sentence twice. That's the whole man. The elder sister, Lin Xiao, heard my name one more time and just left the room. She'd been drifting away since she watched the whole righteous Jianghu shrug at a million dead laborers, and she couldn't make it square with a single word they'd raised her on. So she stopped trying. My father seized alone. Because here's what the raid had actually cost him. Not a son. He'd written that son off months ago. His reputation. The great Valiant Zhao, caught defending a villa that ground millions of the emperor's subjects into a pit. The upright patriarch whose two sons tried to kill each other in public. The famous father whose vicious boy served as an imperial dog butchering the Jianghu. Every story people told about Valiant Zhao now had a stain in it, and every stain had my name on it. Guang promised himself that once Lei healed, he'd find a way to get me stripped of rank and punished for slaughtering the Jianghu. And he soothed himself with the one thing he was sure of. The great Qian court was weak. The Zhejiang sect ruled the north and its millions. The throne's whole policy toward men like him was one word: tolerate. No matter how mad Lin Wei got, the police would never dare a real war with a great sect. That ungrateful dog has surely slunk off in disgrace by now. Ruthless, graceless, all brute force and no name. Nobody will ever give him a second glance. Famous last cope. Then the golden boy woke up. Father, mother, where am I? Lin lay, weak as water, and then the memory hit him. One strike. Guang'd been made helpless by one strike. If not for a priceless suit of hidden armor, he'd have died on the ground. Lin Wei. Guang ground the name out, shaking. The young alliance leader, ranked genius, beaten like a toddler by an imperial dog. My mother, who could forgive me a lot, could not forgive that. Dissatisfied with your parents is one thing, but to raise your hand against your own brother? That's a beast. She started to hate me too. My father patched the boy's ego with the sweetest lie in the family cupboard. You're a chivalrous man. A righteous man will always lose to a ruthless one's sneak attack. Don't take it to heart. A sneak attack. Lin Lei grabbed that rope with both hands. Right, I'd ambushed him. That's the only way he could have lost. That ruthless bastard. Next time, revenge. And to cheer him up, my mother changed the subject to the one thing that always worked on him: reputation. The Tianji Pavilion rankings updated, Lei. Let me read them. She'd had people watching the lists just to feed him the good news, because he'd broken into the 5th rank and beaten the villa's first disciple, the man ranked 30th on the human list, so surely his own rank had jumped. She unrolled it. 20th on the human ranking, Zhejiang sect's Lin Lei. 5th rank, wielding a high-grade human-level blade. Record: easily defeated sword-casting villa's first disciple. 20th. Lin Lei lit up. One of the 20 finest young heroes in the whole great Qian. And the list of heroes, everyone knew, was reserved for the righteous path. Imperial dogs weren't even eligible. So the ranking wasn't just glory. It was proof he was a true genius, and I was nothing, because a dog like me could never appear on it at all. My father beamed. Every rung his golden boy climbed was proof of what a fine father he was. And then his eyes snagged on a line above his son's. 19th on the human ranking, Zhou Wei of the Great Qian Divine Might Army. Guang frowned. An army officer on the list? The Tianji Pavilion never ranked the court's people. Never. Century-old, unwritten law. So why? A cold thought crawled up his spine, and he looked to the top of the list like a man walking to the gallows. And there, near the very peak, sat a name he knew far too well. Guang read it out loud without meaning to. 7th on the human ranking, Imperial Secret Police, Lin Wei. The room stopped. 7th. The lightning hit Lin Lei square in the chest. His brother, the dog, the nobody, the man he'd just been told he only lost to by a cheap trick, sat at number 7, 13 rungs above him. His last shred of pride turned to ash on the spot. My mother snatched the list with shaking hands, refusing to believe it, and read the record aloud in a whisper. One strike severely injured Lin Lei through his inner armor. One strike killed sword-casting villa's first disciple. And my father, Valiant Zhao, 9th rank, leader of the North, the man who'd told himself an hour ago that his dog of a son had slunk off in disgrace, unwanted, unseen, stood frozen, unable to make his mouth work as an old servant's voice drifted in from the doorway to finish loading the picture for him. Sword-casting villa has been destroyed by the Imperial Secret Police. Master Shelin and his elders died on the spot. Much of the Jiangnan martial forest died with them. The son who wasn't worth a bed, the dog who wasn't worth a second glance. Number 7 in the world and climbing, and he'd gotten there by doing the one thing the great Valiant Zhao could never quite pull off for all his benevolence and righteousness and 1,000-year name. Guang De made the whole world look Korona, and the world wasn't done slapping them yet. Because 5 days later, on Divine Physician Mountain, the news walked into their sick room on the lips of the kindest man in Jiangnan. Divine Dr. Wen, the eccentric legend who treats only the good, takes no money, and once told the righteous path to its face that it was a club for fame chasers, arrived to check on the golden boy and mentioned, in passing, that sword-casting villa had been erased. Valiant Zhao shattered the flagstone under his own foot. A Jianghu giant, destroyed by imperial dogs. I'll raise the righteous armies of the Jianghu and avenge them. Because his first instinct, always, is the performance. And the good doctor gave him a very strange look. I wouldn't, Valiant Zhao. The rumors were true. The villa swindled 1 million laborers over 5 years. Tens of thousands were pulled out of that mountain alive. What was done to them was inhuman. This wasn't a tragedy. It was a sentence, carried out. And then, warming up, he delivered the invisible beating of a lifetime, one compliment at a time. That young police commander, though, a true young hero, uncovered the whole thing from nothing, starting from one little county, stood alone against the giants of the Jianghu, saved tens of thousands. That is a chivalrous and benevolent heart. Half of Jiangnan is grateful to him. Now what was his name again? Lin something? Picture them. Valiant Zhao and his wife, sweating through their silks, each word of praise for the anonymous young hero landing across their faces like an open palm, because the chivalrous, benevolent, beloved young hero was the son they'd beaten to death for lacking chivalry. And the great hero's honest, private reaction to 1 million dead men? Relief. Thank goodness I left the villa early, or I'd have defended them publicly and ruined my name. Not one drop for the dead. There's your hero, Jianghu. Enjoy. The comedy wrote itself from there. The golden boy suddenly sprayed blood 3 feet high and fainted, and the panicked parents summoned the doctor, and the doctor diagnosed the culprit. Them. They'd been secretly stuffing their darling with premium ginseng against his explicit medical orders, and the backed-up potency had nearly detonated him. The finest parents in the north, folks. They even loved their favorite child incorrectly. But then the doctor said the thing that wasn't funny at all. Your daughter, the one in the private room, her condition is far worse than his. Lin Hua, my little sister. The only one of them who ever spoke for me. The doctor had thought her merely cold-natured, and had found something else entirely. A cold that came from inside her energy, pain that reached the bone marrow and touched the soul. Not an illness at all, he said, a fate pattern. Born in the wrong year, wrong month, wrong hour, a destiny clashed with water, freezing her alive from birth. Medicine could slow it, nothing could cure it. Fate patterns can be read, the old doctor said, but not even the master of the Tianji Pavilion would dream of defying heaven to change one. Only the gods above control fate. Only the gods. File that sentence away, right next to the hammer. Because somewhere south of that mountain, there was a man carrying the inheritance of the true martial emperor himself. A man with a god's sword, a god's flag, a god's serpent general, and a cannon full of divine alchemy, who owed that freezing girl the only kindness anyone in that family ever showed him. Meanwhile, 1,000 miles away in the Qian capital, my career was being decided in a room I'd never entered. Chen Tao knelt before the emperor of Great Qian and delivered the official version of Long Yuan's circuit, a small masterpiece of creative reporting. The commander who died to the great demon? A regrettable loss, and privately, no loss at all. The emperor had sent him along precisely because he'd gotten too cozy with the Jianghu. The Long Yuan sword the emperor wanted for his collection? Tragically lost when Master Xiaolian's body exploded. Heavenly weapons are mysterious, Majesty. Who can say? A story with conveniently 0 surviving eyewitnesses. And the demon I'd gone back down to tame, the treasures, the flag, the dragon vein? Never happened. Chen Tao had no intention of poking the grandson of Lord Zhao. Then he made his real move. When the emperor asked about the young company commander who'd blown the whistle on sword-casting villa, Chen Tao laid it on with a trowel. 20 years old, 5th rank, 7th on the human ranking. And the court gasped, because the Tianji Pavilion hadn't ranked a court official in living memory. But more than talent, Majesty, loyalty. Guang purges traitors from within, destroys the wicked without, thinks only of the great Qian and your Majesty, and wants no fame and no fortune for any of it. That last line did it. The emperor of a weakening dynasty has genius ministers to spare. What he starves for is a ruthless one who's loyal. Excellent, he declared. Exactly the man I need. A 5th rank official. Promote him 2 full grades. 1,000 household commander. And in the front row of that court, an old man with a white beard sat stroking it with a smile he didn't even try to hide, saying just loudly enough, 7th on the human ranking. No wonder. Guang is, after all, my eldest grandson. Li Chen, planting my name in the one garden where it grows fastest. His aides stood there, gaping at the arithmetic. Days ago, the boy was 3rd rank, now 5th and 7th in the world, quietly re-deriving the definition of the word talent. Was Chen Tao's pitch true, by the way? No ambition, no desire for gain? I confiscate entire sects for a living. But here's the beautiful part. It didn't matter. The emperor needed to believe in a loyal blade. My grandfather needed the emperor to believe it, and I needed the promotion. Everyone at that court got exactly the story they required. That's how power actually works. My father spent 50 years polishing a reputation by hand. Mine assembled itself in a room I'd never seen, out of other men's needs. So, 1,000 Household Commander Lin posted to a new region, Jiangnan Circuit, to investigate the remnants of Prince Ming, the old rebel line that had supposedly murdered the last police commander there. I took my company, my 2 disciples, my flag, and 1 napping ling tucked in my sleeve, and rode out. And here's the detail I want you to hold on to. Divine Physician Mountain, where my broken golden brother lay recovering, and my little sister lay freezing to death under a fate no one could change. That mountain is in Jiangnan Circuit. The whole board was quietly sliding onto one map. Jiangnan was a different animal from the last province. No towering sword-casting villa running everything out loud. Here, the powers dressed nicely. Respectable escort agencies, upstanding old families, law-abiding on paper, and underneath, every one of them in bed with somebody at court, running slaves and frauds and monopolies with a smile. It's the kind of place that eats ambitious officials alive and calls it an accident. The last commander who came here to make a name went missing chasing bandits. Nobody found the body. They'd never had one of me before. The local heavyweight introduced himself fast. Governor Xuan Kai, the circuit's top civil official, the fat spider at the center of the web. Guang came to feel me out over tea. And because a man like that can't help himself, he bragged about his tea. Leaves picked at dawn in late autumn by young girls. Frost still on the petals, off their very lips. Exquisite, refined, and free. Guang took it from the pickers for nothing and called torturing people for a nicer cup sophisticated. It's precious then, I said, and poured him a fresh scalding cup. So don't waste it. There's a custom in my hometown. The tea you're offered, you drink in 1 gulp. Anything less is rude. Guang sat there, stuck. Fresh boiled, 1 gulp. That's a scorched throat. Guang started to protest that I was threatening him again. I grabbed the cup and poured it down his throat myself. His scream filled the whole office. Lips split, throat scalded. The mighty governor of Jiangnan rolling around on his own borrowed floor. His guards drew and found a row of divine arm crossbows already smiling at them. Every weapon lowered. Host punishes a corrupt official. Reward, a stack of 1,000 transformations paper. Now that is a gift. Write on it, the words vanish. Leave it blank, words appear. Evidence on demand. A treasure custom built for a secret police whose motto is execute first, report later. Somebody says my evidence is fake? The Imperial Secret Police don't find fake evidence, friend. We find whatever we need. Turns out the Embroidered Spring Blade was finally telling the truth. Our proof is airtight. Because we print it. When Xuan Kai could speak again, swollen up like a pig's head, I asked him pleasantly if the tea was good. Delicious, he croaked on his knees. See, you like tea, so I let you drink tea. Where's the trouble in that? Now, tell me about Jiangnan. And he did, every word torture through a scalded throat. The Yushan escort agency, strongest of the local powers. Its chief, a near rank 8 master. Its real armor, a son who studied at the Pojun sect, one of the 9 great sects. The other factions ranked down the line. Guang named them all. Guang left out exactly 1 family. His own. The Gao clan, and his wife, Madame Xuan, a rank 7 expert, the private muscle behind the governor's chair. I noticed. I didn't mention it. Some fish you let think they're still swimming. I asked one more thing, about the local legend, Divine Dr. Wen, a healer who takes no payment and only treats good people, who told the hypocrites of the righteous path to their faces that they were fame chasers, not heroes. My kind of man. The Imperial Secret Police could use talent like that. I filed him away. What I didn't yet know was that Divine Dr. Wen's mountain already had a very familiar family camped on it, nursing a certain broken golden boy back to health. Connie, then I gave my news station an order that broke their brains. Send the men out on bandit suppression, every day. Can't neglect the old job. A local company commander frowned. My lord, Jiangnan doesn't have bandits. True enough. When the Jianghu factions run everything, who's left to rob a road? I smiled. That's what you don't understand. The one thing the great Qian never runs short of is bandits. Watch and learn. My Xinjiang veterans grinned because they'd heard this sermon before, and they explained it to the locals like scripture. Bandits don't call themselves bandits. We're the ones who decide who's a bandit, not them. Anyone with martial skills, who keeps slaves, runs frauds, oppresses the people, if that's not banditry, what is? So we wipe them out. The local officer's mouth fell open, because by that definition, every single Jianghu power in Jiangnan was a bandit, and every single one could be raided, confiscated, erased. Same engine as always. I just let the hypocrites define themselves, then held them to the definition. Reclassify, then confiscate. Rinse, repeat. And my men had absorbed more than the doctrine. A few days later, outside my own office, one of Xuan Kai's household guards, furious that commoners were gossiping about his scalded master, grabbed a random passerby by the collar, slapped him across the face for words he hadn't said, and ordered him dragged to jail as a lesson to the crowd. This is what happens when you talk about Gao Mansion in this city. The street bowed its head on reflex, the way this province had been trained to. Then a cold voice. Weapons down, hands up, or face the consequences. The guard turned, saw flying fish robes, and relaxed into the old script. Ah, brothers of the Imperial Secret Police, we're all on the same side, and got a crossbow bolt to the shoulder mid-sentence. Wrong lobby, buddy. Who's your brother? You're not worthy. I said weapons down. My officers cuffed the entire Gao retinue on the spot, announced to the street that the Imperial Secret Police does not forgive anyone who feeds on the people of the Great Qian on its watch, and marched off. And the crowd just stood there, buffering. An official's private muscle, arrested for slapping a random commoner. By the cops. One old man said it out loud, slow, like he was sounding out a word in a language he'd never been allowed to learn. There really are officials in the Great Qian who don't eat us alive? There are now, grandfather. I imported them. Fresh from Xinjiang, batteries included. Governor Xuan Kai, meanwhile, went home to scream and smash vases with a black ring of ointment painted around his mouth and his tongue hanging out to cool. A look so majestic his own son laughed, then panic cried, then got beaten with a stick for the laugh. Nothing brings a family together like shared trauma and a scalded dad. But the fat spider wasn't stupid. Ego in a sling, throat ruined, he sat down and did the exact math I'd been counting on him to do. This new commander was a monster, but a lonely one. Back at Swordcasting Villa, Lin Wei had 2 rank 8 assistant commanders standing at his shoulder, on loan from the throne. Out here, 0. Solo queue. His own rank sat at a measly 5th. Attack him openly, and the emperor deletes your whole clan for insulting his golden boy. But quietly? Let the local Jianghu do the wet work and keep your own manicure clean. So Xuan Kai drew up his plan, and honestly it wasn't bad. Feed the dog exactly what he's sniffing for. Spread fake rumors of Prince Ming's rebel remnants, small, remote, scattered, and keep the Imperial Secret Police jogging across the countryside chasing ghosts, while he takes his sweet time knitting the Jianghu factions into a nice, tight noose. Let Lin Wei ride home empty-handed and stupid, again and again, until the trap clicks shut. One rule, he told his son, carve it on your forehead. Never, ever let anyone trace the rumors back to us. And his son, Xuanjian, eager, dim, personally offended on behalf of his father's swollen face, went off to arrange it and had a brilliant idea. His villain origin story idea. Where do you plant a fake rumor so it can never be traced home? Somewhere remote. Somewhere stuffed with your own relatives who'd never rat. Somewhere like the Gao family's own ancestral estate, 100 miles out of the city. Perfect. Untraceable. All family. Guang was so proud of himself. Bless. So here's where I'll leave you this episode, reading over the fat spider's shoulder while he spins his web with a loose thread his own son just gift-wrapped and mailed to me. 2 days from now, a report lands on my desk. Sightings of Prince Ming's rebels, way out in the remote countryside, at a cozy little place that happens to be ringed by Gao family relatives. And I'll frown and go, huh, are the rebels really this sloppy? And I'll saddle up and ride out to investigate, exactly like the governor is praying I will. Except, I don't ride anywhere empty-handed. I roll up with 500 divine arm crossbows, a company of men who eat a place like Swordcasting Villa for breakfast and complain it was small. A sword that swallows heaven-grade weapons whole, a tamed mountain god napping in my sleeve, and the one instinct 2 dead blacksmiths beat into me completely free of charge. When a rich man's smile is that wide, count his hands, then count yours. I woke up a throwaway corpse. No room, no bed, one warped hammer, kicked to death by the most righteous man in the north for the crime of not dying on schedule. A few months later, I'm number 7 in the world. My golden brother's whole personality is ash. My hero father is still frozen over a ranking list, unable to form a sentence. And a provincial governor is so scared of me, he's plotting in whispers because his throat can't manage more than a whisper. The governor thinks he's baiting a lonely dog into a trap. Guang has no clue he just mailed me an engraved invitation to the Gao family's front door, and that in this world, the only real power was always the one sitting in your own hand. Mine's already reaching for the reins.